call the meeting to order. And before we start, would anyone be interested in doing the minutes at all? Taking some notes, I can fill with. Thank you, Deb. All right, so Deb, you can see from the, just make note who's not here. All right, just give me those.
Oh, here, I'll make a list.
Okay. All right. Okay. So thanks again, guys. Sorry about the problem with not being able to get in. I'll make sure that next time we're looking at the building ahead of time. Didn't foresee that one. So you guys all saw the minutes. So I have
I move the acceptance of the minutes as mailed.
second for the motion to approve the minutes. All right, great. Jim. Any thoughts on the minutes? Any questions? Not much to them, but okay. All those in favor of adopting the minutes as mailed, say aye. Aye. All those opposed? All right, motion passes. Okay, so the next thing, I didn't put this on the agenda, and I apologize for that, but just the press release, and if it's okay with you guys, we just act on that now before we report further. So you guys have the new draft of the press release, and we spoke about this last time. And you know, if you see any grammatical things, you can let me know afterwards. But primarily just content-wise, anything glaring?
A lot of missing names.
Missing names?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, You're right. Yeah, we'll get that figured out in a second.
I thought it's very good. Is Union District 23 actually part of this group?
Yes.
No, it's not.
It's 47 it is.
20, because it's Danby and
Right.
October separately.
We listed,
23 doesn't have anything.
Okay, so
Yeah.
that's wrong to put that in there.
Good catch.
Okay,
Right.
all right,
Just
okay,
technically.
all right.
Well, keep in mind that the
Thank you.
towns are pretty much bound to each other. because
Yeah, but
they're in schools.
just technically.
We don't
Yeah,
have
that's a good point.
representation now.
Yeah.
Do we
Guess
got
I-
Technically,
Mount Tabor and Danby
Individual
separate?
contact.
I guess I didn't fully understand that technicality. All right, thank you.
Um,
So there's 6.
Yep.
Paragraph.
All right, so,
Personally, I don't want to have my email. I'm just concerned about like
okay,
my email floating around the internet. Like I don't get enough
Oh, yeah.
yeah.
junk email already. I'm
to
perfectly
bring
fine
that
listing
up.
my phone number, but I would just ask not to have my
Okay,
email
so,
list.
John, can I offer, if you, as part of this committee, I think you can sign up for a BRSU
Yeah.
email account. It
Yeah,
would be completely,
yeah.
only for that purpose.
I think
Okay.
my phone, personally, my phone number's fine.
Okay.
I'm happy to talk to people by email, but I just don't want to have it
all right.
floating around freely on a website.
Will
Yeah.
we print all of that? I mean, they-
No,
Well, I think the point she's making.
Yeah, because I took on like a BRSU
Yeah, I thought about
website so that my
doing a
personal didn't have
BRSU
to be
email.
floated, yeah.
I just decided not to.
okay,
It works very well. And
You can use it through Gmail, yeah, it's good.
Could there be a general link to the BRSU website for contact information
Yeah.
rather than have that
Yeah.
on the newspaper?
so,
You could list the names.
you guys like that? Yeah, put the names and I'll put the link to the BRSU website with contact info, okay.
John, if I could get my home phone number taken off, my cell phone is what the one I'd rather have left on there.
Okay, so this list comes from the BRSU, so let them know that,
Okay.
and
So
just
send like mom an
send
email?
Celeste
Okay.
an email,
All right.
and she'll take care of that. And because I do think this, eventually the contact list will be put on the website. I'm looking at other merger study committees. They have phone numbers and emails on there. But we can cross that bridge when we come to it. We're going to look at websites in the future too. Okay, so any other glaring?
I'd like to take my cell phone off.
Okay. I'm going to take all numbers off here.
Okay.
So if you don't want the phone number here, this list, that comes from the BRSU.
Okay.
And so email Celeste Keel and change your contact information.
Well, actually, personally, I would prefer to have as much contact from the people of my town as humanly
yeah.
possible, because
I kind of like having it
I'm
in the
not
paper as well.
absolutely sure how they feel.
Yeah.
Somebody's got something on their mind.
And I
prefer
think if
to
you put a
waste the
block
time.
up like that of like, go to the website to find the contact information, like if someone's reading the article and is inspired to contact you and it's right there, they'll do it right away. But then if they have to go to the website, look it up, then maybe they'll just be like, you know, that 5-minute inspiration of feeling is gone and they'll
Everybody
never
on several
contact you.
continents has found my
Because I feel like I would like to have
already.
my email address and phone number in there. I mean, you can leave the phone, but at least the
Yeah.
email. That's why I got the BRSU address, so that I could put it out in public like that. And yeah, I
Okay.
agree. Because I find, like when I asked a lot of the people about those questions you had sent us, man, no one knew anything. They couldn't even answer the questions. It was basically the only pattern that I saw. And so I feel like as much public communication as like putting emails out there is a good thing. Definitely, I agree with you.
Okay, so does anyone have any thoughts moving forward? I don't want to get too hung up on this, but just, you know,
Wanted to ask one question. Each of our towns has a select board that
Mhm.
meets. Is it incorrect for me, is it a bad thing for me to go and bring the Londonderry Select Board up to date with what's going on? Or do you want to control through the
the
single press release?
select board, well, I don't know.
The select board happens
How
to
about
be-
how about we just say, let's do the norms first, and that, something like that might come out
Right.
when we talk about the
Okay,
norms of
that's
how
fine.
we operate. And I think stuff like that will come out. It seems like this is sharing contact information might be something with the norms too.
Okay.
And we might want to just come back to this. I don't think this is not going to be all be printed in the paper anyway. And so, I'm kind of, some people are unsure about it, so I'm hesitant to put them all out right now.
How
Maybe
about
we
if
can,
we just approve page 1?
there we go.
And this will go to the Manchester Journal and anywhere else? Like, is it?
Yeah, we'll go the journal and the, which will also go to, news guide, we'll send it to the news guide, and the.
Can it be posted on the BRSU website? I mean, do they have a place for us on their website?
Yes, they do.
Okay.
And we're gonna look at websites in the near
Yeah.
future here too.
But what other media is different for Manchester and Dorset? We've got it, but.
Yeah,
is
we
the
don't get
message,
those, we don't get any of those.
Message would be
Good,
better.
because it's
especially
free.
up in the mountain area.
Okay.
Right.
Message, okay. And the banner, this will go to the banner too if it goes to the journal.
To the banner on the Herald
Front
as well.
porch forum?
Yeah.
Doesn't cost us anything.
Yeah, the front porch forum, that's a good idea too.
What about, is there
I just want to say on the front porch forum, because it's so selective, we are part of Sunderland, Sandgate, and I'm not sure if it's Manchester. There's maybe 3 different front porch forums. So just to make sure that you hit each one of
Oh,
them
boy,
for
yeah.
who's,
Yeah.
for all the communities.
Yeah.
I think we're Sunderland, Arlington, Sandgate,
point.
so whatever you put on Manchester won't hit us.
Okay, so we can move on. I move page 1 of the press release
All right, so there's a motion to adopt.
with the
page one.
addition of the eventual vice chair.
Yes, and some quote.
John, can I jump in real quick?
Hold
Just
on
wanna-
one second. Is this
Yeah.
pertinent?
I just want to
to-
make sure that Jen Rosenthal's name's on there, not Leslie's, because I don't have it in front of me, and that was a late
Yep.
change.
Okay. Yeah, it's here.
Okay.
All right, so, second to the motion?
I'll second.
All right, anything else? Okay, all those in favor of adopting page 1 as is, with the new information to follow, say aye.
Aye.
All right, all those opposed?
And also the corrections that we made 6 rather than
Yes.
7.
Yes.
So without staying,
Okay. Okay. And I apologize, we didn't really have much of a public here. But public comment, Jim, Melanie, she's the ones first, but you guys good?
I guess my only comment is that, I'd love to participate in your project and the activity. Other one.
Can you introduce?
Sure, if you want to. I'm Melanie Virgili. I'm the chair of the Sunderland board. Neither of the Sunderland reps to this committee could come tonight. One had a medical emergency and couldn't come. The other one had, had previously notified that she could. So I got a call this morning asking if I would show up, knowing that this activity was going on. So I have some notes and some thoughts of what are some people in our town are thoughts. So I'd be happy to share them when it comes to that activity, share opportunity. So I guess I would ask that you would consider at least letting me step in at that time.
All right, so we'll talk. I'll bring that up when we get there. Thank you.
What's your last name?
Virgilium,
Yeah,
Virgilm.
Just worth introducing myself to. I'm Jim Salzgiver. I'm on the Dorset board and I'm chair of the BRSC board. And just kind of remind everybody that the BRSC board through the governance committee, which is John Morey is actually the chair of the governance committee. We're hoping to have decent interaction with you guys and act sort of as the glue that can pull together the other merger study committees as they get created. The one up at Meadowy sort of territory, they actually have had 3 meetings now, and the last one, like this one, they kind of did on their own, kind of running their own show, which was really good. The other one that is the non-operating, it's still in process of getting set up. And actually, that probably is going to happen relatively quickly, and it's kind of a simpler, merger study committee certainly than you guys. So, we're just keep in mind the BRSU and the governance committee, and use it as a resource. When you need to, you can always work through Jackie to do that. But if you're kind of interested in what other merger study committees are doing and all, then feel free to call on it as a resource.
Thank you. Okay, so next bit here, elect vice chair, and so the role of the vice chair is to assist me with making the agenda, and with that, maintain some degree of impartiality, and to run a meeting when I'm not, if I can't be here. So, does anyone have any questions about that position, or would anyone like to move to nominate someone?
Move to nominate Richard Grip.
Motion?
Second the motion.
All right. So, any discussion on the nomination?
Would you
Richard?
accept?
Absolutely.
Okay.
I'd love to do it.
Who seconded?
Yeah, who was this? Jay was Jay
Oh, you
seconded.
seconded,
Yeah.
okay.
Okay. Can you give us a little context about your background?
Yeah, I missed the last meeting, so, the reason I really would like to do this is just my experience in working with the mountain towns, doing the RED study along with another consultant. So I feel like I have the background to help to guide our committee in the technical pieces of the study, and I think it'll be my pleasure to do something like that. That's my desire to do it. To help out.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Any further discussion?
The nomination to be closed and the chair cast one ballot, since we don't have a quorum
Would the chair cast one ballot for?
for Richard.
Would I here? You mean?
The motion is to close the nominations and move that the chair cast one ballot, so that there's an official yes.
Yes.
That
So
elects him.
I'm sorry. Say it again.
That elects him to the position.
Yes. So.
Well, don't we already have a motion on the
We
floor
have
to
a
do
motion on the
that?
floor. We can't. Is this a
Yeah.
subsidiary motion? You're saying?
Yeah.
Well, it could be, but
So I
I
don't.
withdraw my motion.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Yeah. So yeah, we can't. This is the main motion. Unless that's a subsidiary motion, I don't think we can move on. Okay. Any other further discussion on the motion?
Now, wait a minute, we can vote for Trump or Hillary.
Yeah.
Put
There
my
we go.
name in that mix.
You might end up president.
That'd be great. No.
Actually, I'd go for that.
There we go. All right, all those in favor, unless there's no further discussion, all those in favor of electing Richard as our vice chair, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? All right. Thank you, Richard. Welcome.
Yeah, thank you.
Yes.
Okay, and so the next piece is adopting norms of operation. So I'm going to some more paperwork here for you. And there's a part 1 and a part 2 to this. We're just going to look at part 1 right now. So this is the activity we're going to do. Just we're looking at norms of operation. And I thought this is a good way for us to interact and work with each other a little bit more. Let you guys get that first. And if you guys want one of the... Got plenty of extras here. All right. Thank you. All right, so as you can see, our objective is here to adopt norms for how we operate as a committee. So a norm is a commitment statement. So that's what we're doing here. Boards, school boards have code of conduct. This is a little less formal. It's we're adopting commitment statements. Norms represent protocols and commitments developed by the committee to guide members in working together and how it should operate in a public setting. Norms help the committee clarify expectations regarding how they work together to achieve their shared goals. So the first part, we're going to break into groups of 3 or 4, and I want you to try. You can't be with anyone from your same district, okay, if you're able to do that. Then establish a list of norms for how the committee should operate. Make sure you develop a norm regarding public comment. That's really important that we get that figured out and we're on the same page regarding public comment. And then here's just below is just a suggestion for how you can draft norms. I'm just thinking about any bad experiences you've had on boards or committees that weren't effective, and what norms did they not have, and some more tips for establishing norms. Anyone have any questions about the process?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't understand. We're going to break up into committees of 3 or 4 now to create the norms?
Just the draft. We're going to work for about 5-10 minutes.
Oh, I see.
Just
Okay.
to draft them,
Yeah.
and then we're going to come together, and then you guys are we're going to share them out and try to adopt them together. If that makes sense. Okay. All right. So we'll have we can just move around. We'll get groups of 3 or 4.
Since we're
Works for me.
Maybe I'll go over that
You're
way.
ready?
You
All right.
I believe it.
Okay.
Jay, you want to take my seat over here? I'll switch with you.
So we're going to shoot for about 8 minutes here.
Whatever town you may live in.
Yeah. Stay here.
Most of my life, I've been very proud about it.
All right.
You want?
You look just
Jesse,
like
Good, so the 3 of us.
Okay.
All right.
Look at the budget the other day.
They are widely varied.
So this is, wasn't really sure where you were going until I read
It's
this
about
part.
publicity.
Really kind of just how we operate together.
Yeah.
Because the first thing that I thought of, and we don't have time about it, is when we get to that public
Imagine that we
forum.
limit public
I just,
comment to accept
I'll say the
that.
same way, whether offensive to this or not, I just think that we'll have lots of discussion here. Like all the words approved.
Anything you have on Facebook,
Assuming
don't say
we're
about
at the
this.
point of recommending this forward, or else we probably will. I just think it would be important to do that.
That is later. Because we don't even.
And assuming that I might be against it, but if the group is deciding we're going crazy, that we present ourselves to the public that way. Maybe that was too broad reaching, so that's just kind of what jumped in my mind. We're talking about norms, we wanted to back up some scope and kind of meetings or second meetings, is that?
I think there are meetings too, especially starting meetings. I think that was set us up for this. But maybe they have we want to.
Yeah, I mean, again, that could be one of them, just not not making it split.
Being divided, making, if we
Yeah.
be divided, then we have less.
This is the time to be divided, it's kind of my comment.
When we make a presentation, we need to learn numbers.
Yeah, that.
It's a lower grades.
I didn't think that was.
Okay, then tell me what.
I guess I interpreted the phrase public comments to be what the state.
Representing collective view. I think it really should be individuals. However, during meetings, that's what we're fine. Unless we don't want to be the formal discussion back and forth.
I don't know how exactly.
Representative views, maybe one of the norms is how we do that.
Yeah.
Phrase the rules
Running meetings
In one grade.
Yeah.
That's not a norm.
Tend to.
No. So I think like we get
Go their own direction.
you know, outside of
I think we need to.
outside of the
We need to split it into two.
that we
Then we end
share.
up having, two classes like.
Okay, this gets back to
Where we are.
Bridget earlier.
Video tape. Broadcast, there are a large number of
Not to interject,
tuning.
Three elementary schools, and in the elementary schools
We want
that my kids
carry
went
on.
to,
Right.
you know, in their grade, it would be like, 5, 6, 7, 8.
Has been done already.
She's in a grade.
I could certainly,
Because
Beth here would go came from select board.
I think that's a good idea. Because that was, you know,
Yeah,
that
that
was
would
roughly the
call-
same size as yours.
call
in
upon
2008.
Okay.
So what I think is,
Just get the idea.
They're all,
what I'm thinking kind of because if we have a meeting, we'll know what's going on, we'll be informed, so maybe as a norm, if we can actually talk about what we want.
So the norm
How
would be that we
board
would
can present itself and be divided, and that's
choose
bad.
a moment in
Positive
time
thing.
when there's something.
Remember the idea is to maybe set up a norm when we speak in public, to
Collectively
be
come
impartial
up
and just state facts and information that we can share, so as to allow public to be informed to get their own opinion too. So no matter what we feel, our personal belief on the way it's going or this and that, we can avoid commenting on that and in public only comment on information and what we've been doing, just in an impartial way, you know? Exactly. I think that has to go throughout, because public is everywhere, especially in this age of social media, talk about friends, and listen, whatever you're talking about, say.
But the norm,
We're representing
either.
we're representing our towns, we have to be impartial. We just need to
that it would be
give out the information, stick to the facts. You know, this is what we're doing, this is what we.
I actually think this is a good idea, is to keep.
Oh, yeah.
It's right. We are
Statement of
asking
like,
for feedback.
chair or.
They're obviously much closer to situation, but I think.
But
But the conversations we have on a day-to-day basis, whether they be selectmen meeting, whether in my case, we go to a union school meeting and have a discussion and
Make you aware that.
there will be things you have no choice to
I
answer
think
questions or
opportunities
express
for information.
opinions. I would like to say facts and actually be
Thinking about it, you know, when you have.
It's hard. I
And
mean,
those that are described as opinions, I don't have. a
So
problem.
just to have that remaining impartial. That way we don't have to get specific to every single situation. It's just, you know, if you happen to talk about
We
it.
see our circumstances being probably very different from what the people of Manchester
public comment.
see it as, because for us, it's a dramatic change. For the people of Manchester, the change is relatively minor. Their school will go on to
I would just suggest
to go to the same schools they've always gone to. And with the exception of they may need some new stationery for BRSU,
Manchester.
My guess is he was looking after this.
Public comment, right?
life goes on as
He's
usual.
doing. I thought he was doing
so,
They're having a lot of
See, now it's tricky because from being in public,
these two
commenting,
little towns of Mandy and Mount Tabor.
not just the school board, you know.
What does the public want?
great job, but
Why we need a lot of input from the
previous school
public.
up north, and in other
Small town of 197
sometimes
people,
they didn't, they just like, okay, thanks. I'd be like,
Yep.
you need to like come back with something here, you know? And I feel like it's gonna get heated, so we might need to definitely address it.
Well, it depends on the forum, and unfortunately for you, when we're having these meetings, it's gonna be a hospital here, discretion. And if we get to that point,
Of course, without when
people,
Oh,
we need to make progress on
public
certain topics, and it's gonna be you as vice chair.
education, regulations, legislation,
Establish
Printed matter, absolutely.
So we have, maybe we have,
More than one individual.
any public comment beginning?
Yeah, and I mean, this is where we get to the advantage of, you know, this is a meeting of the public, not of the public. And, you know, you don't want people to walk away with that feeling that they're not being heard, but at the same time, this, like, so we get this is a committee, we have, this is the work that we're charged with.
I find it interesting what he has to
It's
say.
not a committee of, you know, 9,000
I would
people.
say that
So we
what I have to
represent,
say,
as they know, anything
I don't know, that's
presented
just a delicate line.
as
So if you want, in terms of establishing the norm, you know, I think we should welcome public comment at all levels, as long as it's, you know, direct,
How the public's going to interact with this
on the point
particular.
of topic that we're on, is respectful. And we'll be respectful back in terms of hearing, presenting
You want to
a decent amount of time.
So do you think the norm is that
Critical juncture.
This school used to
During
have,
it's a
you
meeting.
know, half an hour, 45 minutes.
Sometimes
not
public
public
chair.
and, but the chair
That was
is
like,
there.
Solicitors.
really cut it.
I wouldn't state that.
I'll be surprised if you get a big turnout of public.
We're open to receiving public
You don't
comment.
necessarily have
It would be wonderful
I
if
do,
you
I
had
think,
a
like,
parent
I think so, that the whole encouraging and having dialogue rather than just the comment,
have those big group sessions.
that I agree with what you're saying, is that we really just need to move on through it, we would have to call it, but perhaps in the norm, we're gonna write these things down and state
And
them.
if there's not,
And in certain circumstances, the vice chair and chair can decide with that.
Yes, there's certainly times
Because you just
outside
hate to, I
or
don't know.
provided.
I just hate to have it so black and white, just be like, no, but,
Always concerned.
Thank you for your question.
yeah.
That's something that we need to look into and research.
and so do we agree
Could really
that
Time with form.
periodically
Some of that stuff
each
is
of us
actually more of a forum that.
attempts to go
Hopefully, if we're doing our job,
to bring people
the other
I
parts we
think
talked
the
about.
community, the select board is probably not the
We'll be
the vehicle
informing
because
people,
there are
but
some people
I
sitting
still have
there
my mind,
who
know we're gonna get to that one big meeting
pretty
in the
much
fall.
talk to them on a day-to-day basis. I do think a school board meeting where parents and concerned taxpayers will be there is probably the better.
All your comments, but please understand we can't really gauge this.
In our case, BRSU, or I'm sorry, UD 23, which is the real active
And the thing is also, it's like,
is not a part of this process.
it's hard for
Two individuals.
so maybe not jumping
Why? I gather the state
that really specifies it.
Yeah.
Respect, but I mean, but specifically.
It's speculation on my part. I don't guess. I think the state ultimately wants to
I feel like, I guess you can be carried
resolve
away.
and a lot of other very small or centralized education.
It's clearly curriculum.
What that means is not just put it to me, and likely to come in the form of we'll start by pairing off a couple grades from West ultimately, over a period of how many years can we speculate? I don't know, maybe in a 10-year period, we'll eliminate this career.
I just think it has to be, once it gets heated and then arguments become more passionate, or the debate becomes more
Middletown is
passionate.
very active trying to improve the old way of life. Her state system for towns or students.
You think that that's a given.
But I think it's important that it doesn't
I think that it's one of those things that you want to have it set up just in case you can pull it out of your pocket.
Is it a
since that meeting, I would worry about it. I'll be respectful to all the others. Sometimes you have people that will.
You have to go in for
Points of view.
Just keep the
How we address each other. Respectful views
on it.
And of the options. That's the problem is that when it's like,
No, I know, and that's my other question.
Especially when we're
I mean, I wouldn't
Thought.
mind actually having
directions that
the idea of calls on by the chair. See, throw that out there and see how.
So how,
I think
just
so.
basically the money
This is more, just as far as my role.
Tax offsets and stuff like that.
I
But I think the comment about when people speak in blood.
Yeah, I'd say let's knock off the corners where we're able.
So that's the tax, you're not getting property tax.
It'd be pretty stiff.
Yeah, I mean, it's, I feel like that's up to you, you know, it's like,
It's gonna
Yeah, it's
I'm always a
also-
big fan.
You could rephrase it, just getting the idea out.
To me, just, my simplistic way of looking at it is,
With the
everything is built up
If I disagree,
to date,
respectfully,
you gotta try to figure out a way to
no, I
use
think
it.
it's just.
Within limits, but if somebody's trying to spend an
Because
hour on
going
their
forward, it is gonna be a
restraints.
normal
How about
conventions and courtesy.
anything there?
Make the group
All right, so we do 2 more minutes, guys, and then we'll get together in about one room.
Yeah,
And,
I think we established some of the email confidentiality.
Maybe,
But
like, yeah,
each
in
year,
meetings and,
how much has it been
do
for
some
your
sort of survey, like, ask general questions about the work they've gotten done and how far we've gotten.
in a single year?
the Freedom of Information says.
Just some sort of simple way to create into a.
That's okay, if it's just you and me. But if you then quote what I said,
You're not gonna have enough time.
Yeah.
And so,
that then
All of that is already spelled out in
if you
state
were
law.
making progress for an open meeting, I want to check my bias.
Yeah.
Is that, maybe that's.
Well, no, that's what I was kind of saying, you know, it's just like some
For
sort
example, you
of,
wanna do a
Gone.
combination.
you know, three general questions that we can just pass out, even at the end of every meeting, you know, because I mean, if it's just the same questionnaire every time.
You're gonna have
I'm not aware of the theory that you restricted.
You know, place, like, you know, like even just 2, like 1 to 10, how much do you think we've done? And then 1 to 10, how
Taking a vote.
on time are we, goals? And then the third question is about
Or maybe
personal development.
forming a plan where they will
I mean, it's hard, well,
step into
that's
an open meeting and take it.
So,
I don't know if there's any restriction whatsoever of what you're talking about.
they suggested for establishing norms, and I agree exactly what, as a committee,
maybe just think
that's
more
a very good
and that's what
procedure
you're fine.
where,
You
you
can't build,
need
even if it has nothing to do with, if it has no.
something to work
He's almost
through.
forcing people to take action.
Actually, what if you built
Knowing that it goes.
a
That's enough for
separate building
You know,
that
it's
had
Yeah, this issue.
water or anything like that?
Now, so I don't know.
Keeps you focused.
I don't believe there's.
Trying to figure out what is that norm.
So I
I
would say,
was on board with the there was any progress on that.
It's like for all of that.
General
maybe-
progress, but also maybe adherence to this.
And finally,
I don't know.
Yeah, well, that's, I mean, I.
All right, so finish up whatever norm you're on, then we'll work together.
Scribbles job, not really a good.
What you want to avoid is anything that's actually
It's
too
hard taking stuff.
No?
too much of a
Yeah.
Is it something that the?
But I want to.
No, we've code of conduct. I'm gonna show
Oh,
you.
really? So where did the idea share?
Like, that's just, it's on some attorneys, teacher job, very simple.
That you do with the students?
Yep, and you do it with other teachers.
It's kind of fun to do it with DBI afterwards high school next year.
Yeah.
Is this something?
No, it's more like professional police.
Therefore,
I like it though. I'm just
Yeah.
using it governance rather than doing
yeah.
decisions or like level of responsibility. And if you make the students
Yeah.
really participate and voice, you know, what's acceptable.
There's misconception. All right, guys, want to get back to our thoughts?
The way most effective committees.
This isn't your seat.
Or you can sit wherever you want. You don't have to.
I don't know if there's a water fountain here. Anybody?
All right, so I also have a Manchester,
John, is there a water fountain around here somewhere?
right up there. Yes.
Or you're from Phoenix, so you.
Yeah, right around the corner here. All right, so I think what we'll do is we're going to go around and each group will share one norm at a time, and we'll try not to repeat each other. And so, you know, I'll start, okay, and one from our group. And then if we like it, we can adopt it. If we don't, we won't. But we can amend it or omit it. So the one that we started speaking about for norm, when speaking in public, so you know, outside of our meetings, whether it's electronically or you know, with the select board meeting, whatever it may be, when speaking in public, be impartial, stick to the facts. So this idea we're gonna, you know, we're not going to insert our personal opinions. We're going to be impartial, stick to the facts when speaking in public. Thoughts about that one?
When you mean public, are you talking about talking to our local school boards, the press, or are you talking about also wives, family, friends kind of thing? Because I'm sure people are going to ask us this kind of.
I think all those.
Okay.
Yeah, in public forums, we talked about, that's where it came up, public forums, Jay brought it
Well,
up.
I was thinking about just, if we just kind of keep it in, when speaking outside of the board, you know, obviously we have our opinion, we're going to discuss the meetings, but when we're just speaking in public, just be impartial, you know, because it comes that we talk, well, when would you communicate? The select board meetings, but really, all the time. I mean,
I'm
my
not here
community.
because I'm impartial.
Well, yeah, I know that. I know you're not impartial, but when we're talking I mean, neither am I, believe me, I don't. But like when we're speaking out to the community or people like that, let us at this point certainly, and as we're moving forward, because we're going to need to eventually speak as a whole, if we decided to do something that we wanted people to vote positively on, we're going to need to present that as one committee. So while we're doing this process, let us, if someone's asking about it, we're talking about it in the grocery store, if we're at our select board meeting, any situation we're talking about it, let's just not inject our opinion. If we, you know, let's just give them what we've been doing, what the information about the law is, and leave it at that. You know, let's try not to.
Well, I would say the
affect their
most
opinion.
constructive way is that way, but also solicit and make a strong effort
Yeah.
to say, here's how it's been discussed, and give a legitimate, even though you may feel one side, pros and cons of what's been discussed, so that you elicit an opinion from somebody rather than
Exactly.
try to shape views.
Yes.
Ed's point was that there were two core areas. One is the business of actively soliciting how people feel and going forward. But then there's also the communication of plausible decisions that the committee has actually made. And it seems to me that Ed, you and so you said that when we're trying to communicate decisions, we should have a press release which pretty much forms the template of what the committee is going to communicate. Going before TV, now Tabor, select board doesn't do much TV, but the Board of Education does. So we have to find vehicles. And so the principle of sticking to the facts, trying to be as impartial and fair to the committee's discussion is important. But when it gets to the business of communicating decisions, we think that should be more formally crafted and agreed upon.
Yeah, I think that's going to come up in our later work when we get to you know, how we're going to do our work. You know, are we going to have a communication subcommittee, right? And that's a really important note for later on.
So as a corollary of that, that once there is a decision, we support it with one voice. if we make a decision, and I happen to disagree with a part of it, I have to keep my mouth shut. Because I'm a part of this
I
community.
don't believe I'm comfortable with that. I
So the-
represent the town of Mount Tabor,
Mhm.
and I don't really owe any allegiance to this group.
Hmm.
I do owe allegiance to the people of Mount Tabor. In my opinion, I will label it as opinion,
Yeah.
but I believe that ultimately this means a huge change to the town of Mount Tabor. And I want some feedback from the people. And if I just have a cut and dried,
Right.
pre-scripted statement, I'm not gonna get a whole lot from it.
Right, but would it be okay, suppose one of us really disagreed with the conclusions that we came to, would it be okay for us to go talk to the newspaper and
No,
voice a
probably not.
dissenting opinion? We actually, this actually happened on the flood 4 years ago. Somebody actually on the board stood up and advocated to defeat the budget and this people, and we just not supposed to.
Yeah, Manchester board this
Yeah,
year too.
Yeah, so the school board code of ethics is that once a decision is made, then we don't have to go, like, if you didn't agree, you didn't have to go out and sell it, but you probably shouldn't go out and undermine it.
Oh, wait, I mean, it's a tricky. I see
Maybe
what
as we
he's-
get further into the process and decisions are made, yes, absolutely.
Like, I mean, but I see what he's, I
Yeah.
see what Bill is saying, because like I do, like, say at the very end, say like the
Yeah.
majority of the board voted to approve it, and I didn't
Mhm,
agree,
mhm,
and they went forward to the public vote,
right.
no, you're damn right, I'm gonna stand up and say, I don't think you should vote for it. I'm not gonna get behind it. If it's that final decision that I dissented on, that I don't think we should do it, then at that point, no, I'm gonna stand up and I'm gonna be, hey, we shouldn't. But what I was talking about more so was the process and leading up to it. So we made this small decision. We don't need to nitpick every single decision, because all those little decisions are just gonna lead to the final decision, which I see what Bill's saying, I can see, because on that final decision, that's different. But leading up to it, all these other decisions and this and that, we don't need to be putting out our opinion, this and that, all the time and being divisive. But like, I see your point, because if it was the final decision that I was the one dissenting vote on the merger, and I didn't want to merge, and I can't sit back and say.
Given the
anything
nature
like
of this group and how many different types of communities we're representing, I would say that when it does come to time that we're voting, a yes vote is no problem. There's two types of dissenting votes. One is, I don't like that much, and I'm gonna vote no. And another is, I can't live with it. And anybody who's voting no should make that known, because then they're free to go back to their community and say, if they voted this way, I can't live with that, and make their case. But if just, if they can live with it, and would rather it not be, then live with it and shut up.
And I think this is the place where we disagree. And if we adopt some norms, we're going to revisit these and come back to them when we're closer to the final decision. Maybe we develop some kind of a way where we can represent the standpoint of our district, right, in a formal way. But I think just getting to your point, trying to how do we avoid the appearance of being so disjointed, but also have opportunities for voice.
I don't believe there's anything disjointed about this group. I
Yeah.
do believe that each of us come from very different communities. And this merger means something different to each community.
Absolutely, yeah.
I'm sure you're all aware of Middletown and their attempts to form a group. They see that as preservation of the little schools, as preservation of choice in middle school, as preservation of choice in high school. And I can't help but feel, and maybe my perception will change, but at this point, I believe that a joint joining with this group means ultimately the end of Courier, the end of school choice for middle school and high school. Is that a good thing or is it a bad thing? I'm still not quite sure. But I need the freedom to discuss that with the people in my community and with the people of Danby, because we are linked, like it or not. The people of Danby, being a larger population, pretty much are leading Mount Tabor around by the nose.
So maybe maybe the norm is, rather than being impartial, that we represent the pros and
want the
cons of each
freedom.
decision.
Yeah.
Yes, I think we need to give people the facts. We need to say, this is what
And
we're working on,
absolutely,
this
we
is
should
what we
be
decided,
clear
and
which
let
is
them
fact and which
decide
is
how they
concern.
feel about it. Instead of just giving our own particular opinion and swaying their opinion when they may not have all the facts. I think we need to let everybody
And
have the facts.
I do
and
not
what we're
want
doing.
to influence someone else's opinion.
Right, and I think that's where we were
I
kind of
want
going
them to
with
influence
that.
mine.
Yeah,
Decision
that's
to
why, 'cause
say-
that's why I wasn't so talking about like any decision of merging or
Right.
not. I was talking more about
Mhm.
just making sure that we elicit opinions, as Ed
And making
said.
sure they have
And if
all
it
of
can't be an
that.
open discussion,
Yeah,
Right.
you're gonna gain nothing.
yeah.
Well, we'll
that's-
probably develop, as John said, another norm as we get to making decisions. But I would say at that point, we should figure out a way to have a legitimate dissenting voice, the opinion. And the vote went, describe how the vote went, why there's a dissenting voice, so that in our recommendation to the state, they're aware of the complexion of the
Like the Supreme Court.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, you write a dissenting view in
Yeah.
the press
Yeah,
release. if you
maybe
want.
that's it, yeah. So how about this, Norm, rather than the impartial one? When speaking in public, try to represent the pros and cons of our decisions.
Evenly, maybe pros
Yeah.
and cons,
Yeah.
evenly
Yeah.
in our decision, no?
Try to evenly represent. Okay.
That's possible.
That's emotionally possible.
All right, so let's move on to some more here. How about the group that's sitting over here? So when we bring up the norm, just try not to repeat anything that is already.
That was our speaker sheet.
Let's see. We thought that one representative from each district should attend each meeting, and that if that was not possible, a member of the school board or somebody that or taking a lead from you should attend as an audience member, so that each town has some representation or each district has some representation.
Yeah, and personally, I think as long as she's representing her town, that she ought to be sitting here at the table along with. I realize you may not be fully up to speed, but I have a feeling you're keeping yourself pretty well informed.
Oh, well, we really just,
I don't
In
think
my
technically
case-
someone who's not on board can have a vote if we come up to a vote, but I definitely applaud.
But
Yeah, well, I mean, like any
Technically,
of the
that's-
public would be welcome,
in
yeah.
my case, I'm going on vacation. I hope to be able to persuade the chair of our school board to take my place.
Well, I like the idea of having, if someone, if there's nobody from a town, someone should be here if,
and we,
Yeah.
to have a representation. I would think that there'll be enough heads up too before we get to a significant action step. But I think only the people appointed to this board
Yeah,
can make a
no one
formal
else can
vote.
vote, yeah, I don't think legally.
Oh, that's a non-voting member.
So,
just a public voice,
Substitute
yeah.
can attend as a non-voting member.
So am I hearing this correctly, that we're making it incumbent upon the members, the formal members, to find a replacement if the town's not going to be represented? Manchester probably doesn't have a problem because,
Yeah,
but some of the other
The
towns.
district, I guess, we talk about
it's the
that,
district.
rather than the town.
I mean, I guess the Osborne.
Yeah. But we represent the Mountain Towns, so the four of us.
Yeah.
So they wouldn't sit at the table, they would strictly be out in the audience.
As a non-voting member.
And the
Or
first speak up though, because the town's-
Yeah.
the town's voice should be represented
Right.
in the discussion.
So one,
So I think it's important for us to solicit their opinion
yeah,
throughout the meeting.
Right.
I'd like to have someone who represents themselves as representing their town sit at this table. I realize there are other towns who have multiple members. I mean, even Danby, the next smaller town, has 2 members, so if somebody's not here one night, the town still has some representation, but I do think there are towns like Sunderland and Mount David.
As a non-voting
Well,
member?
No, I don't feel non-voting is, I mean, we're not just gonna pick somebody out at random who happen to be wandering
That gets
down the
into-
street.
I think it's legally we can't, I guess that's
Okay.
the
But
AOE determined, I think this came up actually.
certainly full rights to participate in
Mhm.
discussion.
Just not for,
At least that.
I can agree with that.
Okay, so if a district is
I mean,
not represented.
I missed 2 meetings, my town is underrepresented.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. So if, here's my draft, if a district is not represented at a meeting, a non-voting substitute will be found by the district's representation to participate.
And the minutes should show clearly how that is in discussion for that,
oh,
during that time, so that it's understood that it wasn't formal committee member who was making the discussion, but that town, by towns like this, were plugged in.
Yeah.
so one representative from each district should attend each meeting. If not, then we should find a substitute.
All right, so how about this, if a district is not represented at a meeting,
Okay,
a non-voting substitute will be found by the district representing, by the district's representation to participate. I changed the wording, they're not very strong there, but the idea is there. Okay, we're gonna come back, we're gonna
yeah.
move, we're gonna vote to adopt these
Okay.
at the end here, so we'll read them all through again. All right, how about this group over here? Anything?
We were looking for norms, and we thought that we should be governed by informal Robert's Rules of Order, and that normal conventions of civility be adopted.
That's a great term, that's what we're trying to figure out a term for it in ours, normal conventions of civility, that's very
We
nice.
should be more specific about what those normal
You'd be
conventions.
surprised how few people even know the definition of that word.
Generally,
I think that's a
generally,
pretty good norm,
the,
yeah, I like
the
that.
belief of respect is like, or ropes.
And the informal Robert's rules,
Informal.
informal is nice, because you don't have to.
Well-
I think it's already in the, that's already in 706, right? The Robert's Rules. if I
Yeah,
remember
but
correctly,
we
yeah.
were focusing on, we can get really hung up on parliamentary
Yeah.
procedure.
We can certainly revert back to Robert's rules if it gets out of order. I've seen meetings run under Robert's rules strictly, and they are cumbersome and they go till midnight.
Yep. Yeah, I think so long as everyone's being heard and being treated respectfully.
What was the wording then?
Well,
Here to,
our group did discuss this in more detail, so maybe we can piggyback on what you had. So we had some suggestions of letting people finish their thoughts or ideas, their comments before another person jumps in, because even tonight I hear situations where someone's speaking and then that other person's speaking over the top of them. So, some kind of decorum in that fashion I would like to see. We also talked about whether or not the chair would actually have the power to address someone when their turn is speaking. I don't know if that's too heavy-handed, but how informal or formal you want to make this.
If we treat each other with respect, part of that is allowing people to finish their thought before you glom in. Part of it is keeping an even tone. Part of it is understanding, maybe difficult for me, when an individual has talked too much. Those are what I'm referring to as the normal conventions of civility. It's easy for them to talk, and that tends to shut up people who wait for an open. So when I say civility, that's really what
I'm not disagreeing, I think you're right on the money, but I'm wondering if we should be a little more specific about what those civility aspect should be.
Something you'd like, fine, but I don't think it's.
We were using kindergarten, be respectful, don't interrupt your turn.
I mean, I'm fine with what you have there.
I think,
Let's hope it gets.
I think if we get to the point where the norm isn't working for the group, it may be time to revisit the revert.
And we could we do that? I mean, could we revert back to revisiting the norms once
We're
they're
always gonna, yeah, we're
established?
gonna revisit them frequently.
Okay.
Just quickly, is this working? What's working, what's not?
Could we give the chair the power of reverting to Robert's rules?
I think he's got that.
Yeah.
Okay, so maybe we don't need.
Yeah, I think it's important discussion though, how, just, especially the purpose of the norms too, for me anyway, saying, hey, we established this, let's try to stick to this. We said we wouldn't, we would let each other finish our thoughts. So let's just try to stick to that,
Also, we talked about very similar norms with public comment. And so maybe in the interest of reducing the number of norms, we could
I'm liking the terms of it.
expand that to include public comment. And when we get to the point where we maybe have more members of the public at the meeting, having, the ability for public to speak, but using the same the level of civility.
Before we have that, can you tell me how you worded what I just did?
yeah, we'll talk about that first. So if
Or
we
was
talk
that
about,
part of it too?
Yeah, I would just fold in,
You just,
You
just
know,
add in public comment into this.
the members of the board and the public.
Will observe normal conventions
Yeah.
of civility, period.
Yeah, and that could, apply to everybody
Right.
who's.
I mean, I think normal
Speak.
conventions of civility is, I think it gives you a basic understanding. I mean, you want to be more specific, but I mean,
Mhm.
come on.
This
We
is
all
the
know what we're
first-
talking about,
This
Yeah.
is the first
We're,
school room I've been in years that I can't see it posted right on the wall.
So
Keep your
committee-
hands to yourself.
so do we want to start with this and then revisit it, or?
And then if we do need to make it more specific when we revisit it, we can do that. But let's hope that civility is something that everyone gets a basic understanding
I
of.
think
right?
both the chair and the vice chair have the capacity to contact someone who has violated norms of civility, to have a brief, private discussion, to try and make sure that the group is operating that way.
Public flogging is more effective.
Yeah.
Well, and I also certainly think in a meeting that the chair can call someone out of order, if you need to do that to bring the meeting in, and that's certainly within your power,
So our norm then is committee members and public participants will observe normal conventions of civility.
All right. I guess it's back to our group now, and the next one, we said, we talked about how we, chair, my role, chair remains impartial and will not vote unless his vote will affect the outcome.
Unless you said, what? Will not vote unless.
Unless my vote will affect the outcome.
Break it up.
Yeah.
I have a little bit of a problem with that. You're a member of the committee, you happen to be chair. You will exercise large amounts of power in your position. At the same time, you have assured all of us, as did you, Richard, that you would seek to be impartial. We are all potential leaders in this operation, and I think it's important that if a decision is made, that the chair vote and express an opinion, pro or con.
I think we should.
I'll be impartial on this one.
Also, you have constituents and they,
Yeah.
it's their vote.
Yeah, it is your vote, yeah, it's not just your vote you're giving up, it's,
No, I understand that, and, but, we're such a big, diverse group, and,
Within the boundaries
Different
of civility, I absolutely feel that you have voting rights and
Out of courtesy, you could vote last. That way, you
All right.
satisfy all your qualms and still get the vote.
All right, any other thoughts on that? All right, we'll write that one down then. Okay, your group again?
Well, we said we would set a formal time for public comments and that the chair would recognize any further comments. Like we do now, where it's at the beginning of on the agenda, and then later if somebody wants to comment, then the chair could recognize.
May I suggest that that not be at a specific time in the agenda, because very often the public may be here just to express an opinion, and then they'd like to go on their way, and at other times they want to sit through the meeting and then have the opportunity to express.
And that's what we meant,
Yeah.
that the public comment at the beginning would be for, if we just won't have
Okay,
something
but
to
if
say.
you're going to do that, let's maybe have it in both ends.
And so, because we had talked about this a little bit, we talked about being civil, which I think got put into the first, the public being civil into the board, but we had also discussed, which I thought was a good discussion, about making it a comment and not a dialogue.
Yeah,
Save
that's the
time.
big key
you know,
here.
So I think we should speak to that.
Would it be fair to put in two artificial restrictions? One restriction would be a time delimiter, which the chair would have the option to enforce or not. And the second would be that the public would have the right to speak once until everybody else has had a chance to speak. Then it becomes less of a dialogue back and forth.
Yeah, so there is some sample policy out there. You know, I've seen, you know, that we set 10 minutes for public comment, and then if there's 20 people, each person gets 30 seconds, right? And they can yield their time. So that's kind of to your first point. And I think also, go ahead.
Well, I don't see a problem here. I should think that, given what we said, the chair should take that into account and run the meeting in an open way, soliciting comment when we're discussing any given topic. We may miss something because the person is waiting for the end when public comment period. They may be before that or not, or they may forget because we go on to other things that confuse the mind. At the time when we're discussing the topic, let it make it. If it becomes a problem, you can
So
deal
it's
with
my
it.
discretion.
Yeah.
Yes, we would recognize that.
Yeah.
I'd like a chair to be somewhat unbiased in that facility, but I am not sure a fixed time of the meeting, or for that matter, a strict limit of 1 minute was really appropriate for public comment.
Yeah, I think the circumstances are gonna dictate
Yeah.
whether that's
Yeah,
necessary
yeah.
or not. I mean, I wouldn't start with a meeting like this if there's 5
Yeah,
audience
yeah.
members and, you know, if there's 100, then maybe you have to look at that a little differently. But I don't know if we need a norm to
Yeah, I think the
put
biggest.
boundaries on that.
Yeah, I think a lot of it's going to be up to my discretion, Richard's discretion. But the point that I really want to hear from you guys is it a comment, or is it, should we refrain from dialogue? And that's the, because I brought this up in our group. You know, I have seen where people put plants in the audience. You know, you have plants in the audience, and then if the precedent is set that the board will engage, right? And then plants will be put in the audience, and then you can go down a rabbit hole.
The dialogue ought to happen back in our individual.
I think that,
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah.
I think that I agree with what Bill's saying too, but so during the specified public comment section, I agree it should be a public comment and not a dialogue.
Well, let's
But
let
but what I like about what Bill is saying, which I agree with, is that he doesn't want to set time because, and like Ed said, in the moment you think of something while we're having a discussion, you want to say it right then before you get confused because we start talking about other things and you think about other things. You should be able to raise your hand, same as we can raise our hand,
Be
and
recognized by the chair.
And at that point, it is kind of a dialogue because what they're doing is they're being part of our discussion, which I think we should allow. Like, I agree that what Bill's saying is you should allow them to be part of the discussion at that point. During public comment, needs to be a comment. But if we're having a discussion and you have something in your head that you want to say, then you need to be part of the discussion. We should allow that.
Yeah.
With your discretion, you know, that they don't get out of control.
One reason for having the period at the beginning for public comment is because people will hear things and they'll come with some issue they want to present. And that's good, I mean, we should encourage that. But if it's not on our agenda, then we can't engage with that. We can't take action under open meeting law except on the things that are announced in our agenda ahead of time. So
Dialogue tends to deteriorate into argument. So let's not go there. But I do think public comment is an important
Right.
factor.
Oh, no, I mean, they should comment, but if someone comes and they want us to take action on something that they feel very strongly about, we can't do
By all
that.
means, they have the right to ask.
Oh, yeah, they can ask, but we can't, under open meeting law, we can't add things to the agenda and
So
vote on things without having told the public ahead of time that we're going to talk about them.
Mel, recognize you.
Thanks. In regard to recognizing, I think maybe one way to get around the discussion and hear the comment is, you know, I feel like a lot is being left up to you, to your discretion, without boundaries in place. But you could clearly maybe say that any comment back to the public, if the public were to ask you a question, it would be directed at you as the chair. And then you have the opportunity to say, would somebody like to address that? Or thank you very much for your comment.
Yeah.
And that might make a very clearly defined line, and one that you could, when your room is full of people, address at the very beginning of your meeting and say, just so that everybody understands the good norms and this is how it will be handled.
While maintaining a level of order.
Okay.
You know, I'd be very encouraged if this becomes a problem. I think our problem
Yeah.
really.
Yeah, exactly. It's a good problem.
I've been on so many committees and so many boards where we spend days of committees in committee and come up with these ideas until we've gelled it and we've taken all our vote and we got it down on paper. Then all of a sudden people come out of the woodwork when we've been trying to get them to express. That's going to be our real problem.
Yeah. So can we say that maybe I think what I'm hearing is that the chair will solicit public comment where appropriate, when appropriate, and questions will be addressed to the chair.
So solicit and recognize or recognize?
Yes. Okay. Yes. Solicit and recognize,
Public
and also the board and the board will refrain from dialogue.
So the
Or,
chair
excuse me,
will,
the committee will refrain from dialogue.
the chair will solicit and recognize public comment when appropriate, is that what you said?
The chair will solicit solicit public comment when appropriate, and
The board will not engage.
yes, and the committee will not will refrain from dialogue.
Well, you should leave recognizing, solicit
Okay.
and recognizing,
Okay.
because that's asking
Okay.
for and
Okay.
you have something to say, go ahead.
Okay.
I'm just thinking, John, you know, a lot of times we might only cover 3 topics in one night.
Yeah.
So if that's the case, every time you move on to a new topic, that would be your opportunity to solicit feedback from the audience and the public. So it may only happen 3 times, but I don't know if you want to be that defined in this and saying that it would be, the chair would solicit feedback after.
Do I have to put that on the agenda then?
No.
Well, if you take
If
action.
it's after,
No.
I don't think so.
okay,
Yeah.
all right.
We just suggested that if there's a large public,
Yeah.
you will be talking about how you're going to solicit and what kind of public comment is going to come.
Yes.
And so it's at that point that you can say, and after we deal with each issue and the committee has had an opportunity to express its perspectives and point of view, I will give the public a chance to offer some suggestions. And you don't have to do that every meeting.
Yeah.
If it just is part of the way you do things.
Yeah, no, I'm just wondering if we put I was asking that because we put public comment on our agendas, but
That's-
if it's a norm, then I guess we don't have to put it after. But I think what I'm hearing is just discretion here, largely. All right, we move on here, next.
Next issue, which we didn't really develop in great detail, is it happens that I'm not going to be in the country between July 24th and August the 11th. And therefore, an awful lot of my information will actually come from minutes that are a matter of public record. But I would like the capacity, under the freedom of information, to send an email either to the chair or the vice chair for more detailed elaboration, so that when I come back, I'm not operating in the absence of a discussion. That raised the issue of how individual members can talk to other individual members.
Watch the video?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, can you watch, get a copy of the video, and you can just watch it?
Well, I don't know whether I have a capacity.
Or we could send I could record it on my phone and
Well,
make a file that
but
you can listen to on your computer.
so the norm I'm seeking is internal communication between members of the committee. Is it always going to be funneled through the chair? Can one member talk to another without violating freedom of information? Under my understanding, if you do individual comments, so for example, if Bill and I got into a heated argument and I wanted to kind of get a better understanding of his perspective, I
You're
could
gonna
send,
need somebody else.
I could email him and say, let's talk a little bit more about this so I understand your perspective.
Yeah, absolutely, that's not in violation of open meeting law. It's just that you can't, if we went out to the Perfect Life tonight, we had a quorum, we can't, or emailed with each other, that would be violating open meeting law because we're discussing the matters of the committee. But you can communicate with, 1, 2, 3 other people. It's the quorum, if I'm interpreting the law correctly, it's the quorum that's when you violate open meeting law.
So when we're saying norm, we've just said that internal conversations between an individual or even several individuals on the committee is okay.
That's a little touchy. If you're just discussing things and getting informed, that's one thing. If you're agreeing with each other, if 2 or 3 or 4 of you are agreeing with each other on a policy issue and how you're going to vote on the policy issue, that violates open meeting.
Including
I agree.
So in your
Included.
case where like you needed to be sent, if you were
Yeah.
looking for specific, more specific explanation of the meeting, then that would be perfectly fine because you're not deciding anything, you're not deciding policy, you're just asking, this was discussed, can you give me more information about the discussion that was had? That would be more just straight information, which would give me
And
no worry.
certainly, our norm shouldn't be more restrictive than
No.
state law.
Yeah.
No. Maybe we should pass around a copy of the open meeting law.
Yeah.
It's not that long.
No.
We should really have the norm that when anybody goes on vacation, they agree to Skype into the meeting. It'll be 3 o'clock where you are. And
Yeah.
I'm afraid we don't have Skype yet in Ontario.
So how do we word this? What do we-
Well, I don't know. It sounds like it's an open meeting law issue, and do we need to address it, or is it, is it a collusion issue? Because it sounds, it's not violating. Maybe Jim, you can help me out here, or Mel. You're not violating open meeting law, even if you talk to 2, 3, 4 people on a committee of this size.
Sure.
It's just seems indecent, and maybe then is a norm appropriate then where refrain from colluding.
So because there's open meeting law and then there's what you're talking about, just proper,
Yeah.
it's, you don't want to create a voting block, outside of the meeting and then come in the meeting, it's
Right.
just acting properly. I mean,
So we say we will observe the open meeting law?
That's just like a redundant.
Close enough, I mean, we have to, but that's a thing to
Well,
Do we even need it at all?
Address the subject.
Yeah, I think we ought to do less is more here.
Yeah, we'll just skip it all together.
Yeah,
Okay, leave it out.
Yeah.
You want to
Becomes a
give
problem,
people
come back.
the ability to have some conversations, but to know where, where it should end,
Yeah.
essentially.
Well,
That's
I
for
think
people to be rational and reasonable.
I think it's addressed
Well,
in the email.
Know that if anybody ever went through your emails, they're not gonna find anything that looks like,
Yeah,
you're operating.
that's always you always assume that somebody is going to see what you did.
That's true.
Boy, they're gonna have a dull, boring.
Oh, that's why the BRSU email is a good idea too.
Mr. Chair, in the interest of time, I would like to suggest we
Move forward here.
move
Yeah.
forward on the norms so that we can get to our next agenda items.
All right, so next one for our group, periodically, the vice chair will solicit feedback from the committee on how we're operating. So we said this because the vice chair, maybe I'm doing an awful job, and you want to be honest. So every few meetings, we'll quickly do a self-evaluation, what's working, what isn't working, right? We give to Richard, or don't know what the format is yet, but essentially you can distill it and hear the headlines of this idea of 360 feedback. So how does that sound?
It's good. When we want to complain about John, we go to Richard.
Yeah.
If you want to complain about me, you go.
Good job.
Take your phone number off that list. All right, does that sound?
Yeah, so
Reasonable?
the vice chair will conduct informal committee self-evaluations. Committee evaluations.
Yeah, well, yes. We'll solicit feedback from the committee. I think that both work. All right, anything else that we're missing? Do you guys have anything else?
No, I think that's it.
And just, let me just, I don't know if I have it, but maybe we can do this next meeting for the interest of time. I had a Manchester School Board Code of Conduct, but how about in the interest of time, we can compare our norms to that next time. Okay, anything else that we missed that came up?
Maybe you could circulate the code of conduct, and if we read through it, the next time you could just ask, does anybody have anything on there that they want to add to what we said?
Why don't we, this will take a second, there's nothing really that's crazy, nothing that amazing on here anyway. It's just the last bits.
I think you can stop the flow now.
Yeah, we adopted another one from the SBA last.
So it's number 4, those subsections. The side conversations might be a good one. But that's the civilities that fall under that umbrella. What would you guys like? One more paper? So the A through K is what I'm
Yeah,
looking at
that last one, support the
John,
legitimacy.
I will grab one for Jen.
there. Okay.
Somebody spend some time drafting.
It's the Vermont School Boards Association.
Well,
That's their-
Because it's the same as theirs.
Yeah, and there's another one that they have too. This comes from them.
Anyone like any of these that we should move into our own? Or replace any of our own?
I like E through K.
Yeah.
You told us to say?
I should have just given this in the beginning. I didn't want to waste all the time. No, I thought it'd be a good process for us to talk about it.
Well, yeah.
The only question I have is, I can't envision, I mean, the school board has personnel issues and other issues that are sensitive. I can't envision us coming up with any sensitive issue that can't be discussed in
No.
public.
No, and we don't have any conflict of
No.
interest.
That's a great
either.
face.
I mean, a reason to go into an executive session.
Yeah.
Personnel issues would be
That's in
number
the
one.
open meeting law, it's very, very specific
Yeah.
when you can go into executive session. And it's actually, most people don't realize just how narrow that is. It's pretty darn narrow.
Yeah. We passed this with that one.
Right.
So, we have our 4, I think, now. Do we want to, 4 or 5? Do we want to take any of these two?
Well, K was the one,
Less
K
is
was the
more.
one we were talking about that we were unsure about. is what's the final determination of this board would be.
Yeah, it sounds like we're not.
That's what I had gone off on, what if I dissent on it and don't want to support the final decision of the board, you know?
That might be hard because we
But
represent.
however, you can read it and support the legitimacy. Well, yeah, I don't agree with what they voted on, but it was certainly legitimate, you know, I mean?
Yeah, I mean,
Like says a tricky language there, legitimacy.
well, what we're doing is very different from a regular school board. The regular
Yeah.
school board has the
Multiple
final
issues.
determination, and the final
Yeah.
determination on, issues before it.
Yeah.
We have a collective voice to put this together, but
Yeah.
ultimately, it's gonna be voted on. So it is a little bit different.
It is
It's not a
different.
little bit different, it's largely
Oh, yeah.
different.
Well, because they come to, at a board, they come to a final decision, and then
Yeah.
they move on to their next decision. And there is only one decision to be made here, in the end, you know, in the grand scheme of things, so that's just tricky.
So it seems like we've touched on almost all of these. I'm going to move forward here unless anyone has anything that we think we should throw on here. Okay, and Deb, we'll read through our norms once more and then we'll adopt them or not.
Okay. I'll read them, okay.
Yeah, all right.
Let's see. Outside of the meeting, be impartial and stick to the facts. When speaking, no, this was what we finally decided. When speaking in public, try to evenly represent the pros and cons of committee actions.
That was the first one, right?
Yeah.
I like that better than being impartial
Yeah.
because
Yeah, that's
I
what we
don't think
finally.
anybody has ever asked me to be impartial
If you were, they didn't expect it.
in this capacity.
Okay. If a district is, I don't know if we said one representative from each district should attend.
Well, I have that one here. If a
Okay.
district is not represented at a meeting, a non-voting substitute will be found by the district representation to participate.
Okay.
District's representation, excuse me.
Do we want to limit that to other board members or to anybody in their community that they feel would be a good representative?
So you mean other school board members? Is it
Right,
take
so
someone from the
like,
school board?
if,
So there's
Oh,
only three
yeah.
of us.
No, I think you need to communicate with as many people as you can find to,
Oh,
Yeah.
I was
well, that's
gonna,
why we didn't really clarify, because I know at one point it sounded like another board member
Yeah.
or open it up to whoever that person feels is good representative of that community.
Did you had something to add to that?
on the DMV school board, there's only three of us. So if the two of us couldn't be here, there's
Yeah.
only one other one. I was hoping we could at least open it up to the DB 23 board because I wouldn't be comfortable just sending the town clerk over necessarily, but the other DB 23 board members know what's going on.
Yeah,
So
I
I don't
think we
know
leave it
how-
up to the discretion of you guys. If you send in a grenade, we'll let you know.
Yeah.
Does that sound fair?
Yeah. So if a district is
Any
not,
member of the district then. It's
Yeah.
not-
any, so we don't specify who the substitute is.
No.
If a district is not represented at any meeting, a non-voting substitute will be found by the member.
And that's only, so yeah, only if there's no representatives at all.
Yeah.
Period.
The next one was easy, observe normal conventions of civility. The next one was the chair will remain impartial, will not vote unless it will affect the outcome in the case of.
But we didn't do that.
You left that out?
No.
Yeah.
So that means you do vote or you don't?
Oh, yes.
You want me to vote?
Public
No, I'm
comment.
happy with, no.
The chair will solicit and recognize public comment when appropriate, the committee will refrain from dialogue. With the public. The vice chair will conduct informal committee self-evaluations.
Periodically.
Can you say that last one again, louder?
Oh, the vice chair will conduct periodical informal committee self-evaluations?
Okay, thank you.
so when we're planning the lynching, at what point do we
Yeah, right.
There's a
cross the
substitute.
line of the open meeting?
There you go. You
So
know,
we'll have to get 9 of us together in a room somewhere.
That's breaking the open meeting laws.
No, so it's the, we'll talk about it, but there's stuff, Vermont School Board Association, for example, has, it's quick surveys that people can
Yeah.
fill out. You hand them out at the end of the meeting, you know, essentially what's working, what isn't working. And then you can distill it and, you know, give me the headlines, you know. People think that it's taking too long on certain agenda items or whatever it may be.
I was even, when we were talking about it, I was even thinking like just setting up like a 3-question thing. You have like the first one, just 1 through 10, rate how well the work we're doing, the quality of work we're doing. And then second question, 1 through 10, rate how on schedule we are. And then number 3, a little bit of open area for comment, you know.
Okay.
So that way it keeps you, you know, you have 2 questions that you're just putting numbers in a spreadsheet. And then the last one is just, you know,
Yeah, we'll look, develop
Okay.
something, you know, I think it's
Yeah.
something, maybe some scale.
something that's simple for Richard to
Uh,
keep track of.
Yeah, yeah.
Because that can get hairy.
All right, was that the last one?
Yep.
Okay, we have a motion to adopt the norms
So
as
moved.
presented.
Second.
Guys ready to move on? I know it took a long time.
Dick, second.
Hopefully that was helpful. I know. All right. All those, any further discussion? All those in favor of adopting the norms as presented, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? All right, motion passes. Okay, so, gotta move quickly here. Update on scheduling, has that been going around here?
I passed it to you.
Right
Oh,
there.
sorry.
That's all right, you're busy over there.
Yeah.
All right, so, you know, I don't have a lot of specific information to give you. You know, so Dan French is getting his schedule together from his new job, and that's going to determine some things. But we would like to, I think, get a regular weekly meeting date or day of the week here for July and potentially August. So that's what, in the next week or so, hopefully you'll have some communication as far as when exactly we will meet. Yes?
Do we need to have Dan dictate getting our business together? Or can we just begin to get to work? We've been told what's going to happen, and the fact somebody said 53 meetings in one group.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if our task is to gather every district's budget and liabilities and assets
Yep.
as one of the items, or any of the other items, I don't think we need Dan here
No.
to get started. I'd really like to get going next week.
I agree.
I'm with you.
All right.
There you go.
But we need to know, I mean, do we have a template of all the different things that we need to do? And
Yeah,
you
this,
have
there
one.
are
Yeah.
13 or 12
Yeah, it's
questions, and
sent
we
it
could
out.
look at them and pick the easy ones first. And
Okay, I would
It's right here.
definitely go
It's
for
in
that.
our, it's in our sheet.
706.
yeah.
Yeah, that's all right.
All right.
So we are talking about doing a weekly meeting through, as far in the future as necessary. I'm a little concerned, I mean, I
Just
definitely
July
think-
right now.
Okay.
It's just
Yeah,
July.
I think, I mean, I had said once a month, I didn't think it was gonna cut it.
Yeah.
Once a week, I'm kind of concerned that, you know, a lot of people won't be able to make every week.
Yeah.
So I mean, I'm open either way. I mean, I know which ones I won't be able to make, but I think we should at least discuss it before we, you know, put everybody on a weekly schedule.
You know, I think we do need to, at our next meeting, we need to determine how we're going to do the work, how we're going to do the draft. Are we going to have a working group that has one person in each district that is going to spend, you know, 2 long sessions maybe, two Saturdays, could be, you know, 4-hour sessions, just to hammer out a draft? You know, is that something that, an option, right? Or, you know, we have 17 members here, is that viable to have that many people work on a draft? So that's kind of what we need to figure out, in my opinion, next. And I think that will dictate the meeting schedule, more so down the road.
Yeah, maybe Richard has, I don't mean to put you on the spot, but maybe you have some insight, because I actually did, maybe Dan suggested it, but I did sort of envision like a group of people starting to actually write a document. There's gonna be a lot of holes, obviously. But maybe you're saying the same thing. Do you have a perspective
Yeah.
on how that's worked in other
Well,
mergers?
you know, typically we get hired to do something like this. It's a data collection process. So it's really our charge as consultants when I get hired to do these kinds of things, to go out and collect the data and then write a piece or a section that pertains to the part that I was in charge for. So I work with a team of 3 people. I'm a demographer, but there's also an educational curriculum expert and a financial expert. So we're all kind of working independently, but then at the end of the day, we all come together and kind of fuse it. So my suggestion would be likewise to break into subgroups, subcommittees, collect data on what your charge is, and then you're going to be writing sections just on that. It may seem kind of disjointed when we all put it together, but believe me, it will work out. It can be smoothed over. That would be my suggestion.
So I think, go ahead.
I was going to say that, writing the report may be the easiest part, but, I mean, that's not easy, but that might be the easiest part. The harder part will be beginning to build some sense of community around this new district. I mean, how do we, well, maybe in the next step we'll surface what the issues are in one town or another, and how do we as a group, come to some consensus that serves everybody. And those kinds of things take time. And I'm confident we can do it, but writing the report is important, but this bigger issue is the hard part.
I'm looking at it more from the objective standpoint, just in terms of data, and then you can make your decision after that.
Right.
But let's
I
get
think
the
like
facts.
starting to write it steers what
Right,
you're talking
right.
about, you
That's-
know.
That's to Richard's point too, I think, we gotta start figuring
Right.
out what questions we need to have answered to go to the consultant or the BRSU. They're gonna need time to do the research. And I don't wanna advocate for every other week, but is a week enough time to put the questions out there and get feedback so that we can talk about the issues? I don't know. We could start
At
with a
least
week,
during the summer
see
months,
how it goes.
2 meetings a month would be a little more appetizing.
Yeah.
That's what I'm kind of advocating for, but I just wanted to put it out on the table, because I do think it's gonna be a little harder in the summer.
Other thoughts here?
I agree, certainly it's harder in the summer to make it. I wouldn't be able to make every single meeting if it was weekly, I don't think any of us would, but I'd be able to make most of them. But, man, we got a lot to do, and we have a deadline, and we can make it comfortable for ourselves every other week, but, there's 7 of us missing right now, we're still getting something done, we're gonna run out of time. I'm not confident that we're gonna get it done at this point, because we're going so dang slow.
I share that concern.
Yeah.
That's the only thing, I understand, that we're not all gonna get here, and then, it stinks having a meeting every week in the summer, but we have a lot to do.
But is
And so we could, like you're saying, to get the information, that turnaround, but we got 13 questions here. We don't have to finish one before we do number 2.
Mhm.
We can start on one, the next week, while we're waiting for information on number 1, do number 2. And then, we can separate it out like that, but at least we'll keep the ball rolling. We just got a lot to do. And then, I don't know if we're gonna get it done. That's right.
Could it be for the next meeting, I don't know, John, if you thought about this, but in terms of, there's 17 people here, and we're gonna have to divide and conquer. Is it gonna be where people actually sign up in their area, their strengths and interests, or are you gonna more or less designate, you're gonna do this or you're gonna do that?
Well, that's what we have to develop a working plan, right? So either we divide and conquer, or we have like I was saying before, we have a 5 or 6 person working group that sits down and do intensive sessions that hammers it out, and then comes back, and maybe we can have subcommittees then that look at that divide and conquer with the draft.
Okay.
That's another, this is what, I don't want to determine, here's what my challenge, what I struggle with. I just don't want to determine the working plan. And, we have to agree on it at some point. And we're not there, that's, I think, the next meeting, we have to agree on how we're going to do the work. But then it's going to That's taking longer.
I think we need Dan and Jackie and Sue and some of the people from the BRSU all at our next meeting, or as best as we can do, to make sure we're not forcing a timeline on them that's not attainable as well. So I think, I agree with you, we need to make some decisions so we can start moving forward, but I think we need as many people who are gonna participate in that to help make that decision.
Yeah, and I think, go ahead.
I guess a couple things. To that point, you're not gonna get them, I don't think, anytime soon, is my concern. So if you felt like before you make that action plan, you needed them, you might be waiting a month before you can get all them together.
Why is that?
And I may be speaking out of line, but I know Dan has been still trying to figure out whether he's available. My point is, I don't think he's available next week, and I wouldn't be sure that Jackie would be, or Sue would work for that matter.
Yeah, I don't think next week works, but the rest of July, I think looks pretty good.
And I guess the only other thing I was gonna say is it possible at all to say that your meetings are gonna be every Wednesday, but then at that meeting say, do you wanna have one next week, or do we wanna wait 2 weeks? And have that kind of roll with what you need to get the work done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, different options here, and so, it's gonna, I'm gonna look at this, and I'll look with Richard too, and, this is the, plan for this here, and, talk to Dan, talk to Jackie, and, devise a plan, we can disseminate that,
And I
or
think
when we're gonna meet.
perhaps too, it's just gonna end up being a little bit of everything, like you say. I think maybe subcommittees meeting, and then, maybe not having a full committee meeting every, there's a lot of possibilities and a lot of different ways we can go about it.
Yeah, it's good that we're urgent, I think, but also, if you look at the map, the statewide map for merging in Vermont, there are plenty of districts who aren't even assembled study committee yet. But it's good that we feel that urgency, to try and temper that with what is reasonable. Jim, you got any?
No, I was just thinking, the idea came up before of using the 13 questions. I think using that's the ultimate goal as the anchor. What you start with that, and actually using that to determine, what data are we going to need, what committees are we going to need, and all that. Might be a good approach to starting to figure out that work plan in your next meeting. Just, kind of, if everybody takes a look and, use that as a guide to how you have to design your work process to get to that ultimate goal.
Yeah.
I think that was a good idea, so I'm
Yeah,
sure
right.
someone's got that.
I'm sorry, interrupting. If you have multiple committees, then they don't have to meet an open meeting. So you could have,
More
which
people
might be
meeting
more,
together or whenever they want.
Yeah, that's
Right.
not the interpretation that Dan had, but,
okay.
yeah, that was my interpretation until he disabused me of it.
Well, I think, that's one of the concerns you need. If you're having a meeting that's really doing business, you should have it in public is one thing.
Yeah.
You could always kind of get in the process of warning those, little committee meetings and stuff.
But if there's no deliberation or decision-making in those subcommittees,
Right, but I
should it be
think
okay?
this goes back, that reminded me, on Dan's point, I think his point was the process needs to be public. So if you ended up saying, okay, we've got 4 different committees, and if each committee just said, okay, we're going to meet on this night and, essentially warn it, then, and open it to the public, then
Yeah.
maybe that's okay.
I don't think it violates open meeting law, more of a convention of civility.
Just want to make sure that anybody's available,
Well,
anybody's welcome.
what a committee is generating will ultimately be ratified by the whole group anyway. And you are not a quorum.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I'll have to ask Dan's legal interpretation of it, and I'll do that. But can we move on? All right, so, we're trying to make this last one quick as possible. Agenda. All right, so the group activity here, hopefully you found when you solicited feedback from your community members that was interesting and helpful. So what I want to do, the back side of the other page I gave you, remember I said part 1, adopting the norms. backside, part 2, common themes and questions in our community, or in our district. So we're going to distill the feedback from our community so we can identify common themes and frequently asked questions. So those are the two big things. What are the common themes and the frequently asked questions that you heard? So common themes could be the benefits and the disadvantages to merging that you heard. So, and, or the strategies for seeking out feedback. That was the other question. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do, we're going to get into a group with your own district, and I'm going to recommend that Mount Tabor and you guys want to go with Danby too? 'Cause you're
In the interest
23?
of time, since we can have small groups, but if we did the procedure we just went through with the norms, with going around the table and getting some of that feedback out there, I think many of us will have heard a lot of the same
Yes.
sorts of issues.
Yes,
So,
I'm going to stick with this. I hear we're saying we're going to stick with this, and we're going to go 5 minutes with this, step 1, and then step 2, we'll explain that when we get there, okay? But I think this will be quick. I'm going to make us stick to this. Okay, so you get in the group, and I have some Post-it notes. I'm only going to give you, don't worry about the colors, but you're just going to write themes and questions on the Post-it notes with your group. I'm going to give you 5 minutes, the big things that came up. And then we're going to go to the next step here, and we're going to compare across districts the differences and the commonalities. All right, so yes, Mel's going to join us here, Sunderland. And so I'm going to give you some, I'll hand out some Post-it notes and get with people from your
I'll have you.
Did you?
Yeah,
Your district.
She sent this.
Yeah.
Danby,
Did you? I don't know, maybe you were gone.
Do you want to give me
You're
your
standing
Yeah, I summarized her and mine.
Ed, you and I will?
So we'll just go from there.
All right.
And if you have any other
staying there, I
questions.
I'm staying here.
Yeah. They're
There you
going.
go.
We're keeping it on post.
I'd be,
I'll sit
Themes
back.
and frequently asked questions.
well, not a better word.
Well, okay, I mean.
All right, so 5 minutes.
That's it, right?
Go.
I can just explain it to you. Just to preface this by saying a lot of people are jumping to the conclusion when we're talking about school murders.
All right, so what do you think?
It's a comparing the schools
Oh,
together.
yeah, sorry.
So they're saying, well, more variety of options,
Yeah.
Oh, you got it.
more classes, more
Unaware.
extracurricular. It is hard to disseminate it, but you're really talking
Act
about,
46, or just total Vermont?
or if, Dorset goes to Memphis. So I think it was a little grain, you gotta take it with a little grain of salt, because I also didn't want to get in there, I wasn't there to just give me a feel of it. So, and I think in a lot of ways, this is my interpretation.
So if the school closes.
And then that's.
More options,
So they want-
could apply to
They
percentage.
want to preserve
Dorset stays Dorset,
Yeah.
I would guess so,
as opposed to Dorset being
That
combined
was
with them.
everybody's request.
So,
Close
overall,
now, then you can do
you know,
whatever you want. Stay as part of
the benefits of children are broader
What
opportunities.
else?
So that, maybe that's one broader option.
I'm probably sure.
I
Broader
got,
opportunities.
You corrected the condensed, are you talking to someone
To do this.
outside of Manchester?
That's
Okay.
a good,
Okay,
so,
transfer.
so how do we say that?
Okay.
Broad.
So that's probably gonna come.
Broadcast.
Broad misunderstanding.
I think if you could just sort of put them all together, it seems well.
Right?
Okay. So, the other was,
Themes here change.
Okay, all right.
Misunderstanding.
And a lot of that people
So what are the
perception
any questions with that they were asking you?
that there's going to
Regarding
be
courier will be made by a much larger group. Almost all the members living elsewhere.
Okay, so that.
loss of control.
so,
It has to do with
Yeah, these.
bigger
teachers
board.
having a better
Doesn't
match
show
to
us.
the children, so if
Yeah,
there's,
lots of those kids that they're lots of
Yeah, I wonder if
those
it's
kids
feel similar.
Oh, yeah.
seven third grade teachers in a school district. Maybe somehow there's better way to matches.
That thing sort of came up and then one
All the subdivisions in one building, which is
the only one comes out is how they plan
This one is a pretty good one. A bigger
Bigger
applicant pool of teachers.
Everybody
So I'm a
Some
bigger
people
district, so if we say we need to hire a fourth grade.
I heard that,
But, so is this a
scale, build scale.
Better socialization with students.
Yeah, they
which
hear.
leads
No, they
ultimately
were like, they're like, what's
Over
that?
and
And
over.
then I had somebody say, why are we doing this? And I was like,
professional high school.
but I think those were the people I talked to, I didn't know.
Well, I have to provide this. That is a common theme, especially.
But also,
Dorset.
is this a vehicle to create a regional?
So, yeah, because my ordinance, my people were jumping
All
to
right, so
some
when I talk to people,
schools,
they
schools
start
are
at
having regional regional middle school was key.
Dorset's K three, everybody gets the same.
And these are educators talking, so that was a big one, regional middle
But I
school.
mean, this
I could see something bigger.
those are all disadvantages to the students.
Yeah.
The loss of control.
So one other thing that came up in the question I had was where does the focus travel to?
Again,
We have one,
again, if,
right?
you know,
You're saying that,
if schools are
where the focus,
larger classes.
did you hear that at all?
Another
This is an interesting. Well, diluting the power of individual students. There's a huge movement for personal learning. All our children have personal learning
Yeah.
management. And
Yeah.
every year, what goes into that grows. It gets more more selection about what they're interested in something.
They interpret it like that. Huh.
So this,
All right, so-
a good one, you know, if
One more minute, guys.
we're now
Okay.
losing individual schools.
a lot of people say,
Yeah, oh yeah.
Technically, but if they're
So they're seeing more.
Teachers feel less empowered.
how does the town,
Again,
the town
because that's in a bigger context.
I think that's, it's a common thing.
one good thing it's could happen is it creates a bubble here, you need like an extra fifth grade teacher listening from, they don't have to necessarily be in Dorset, they can go to teach over in Manchester.
The town has the right to buy out.
Yeah, and I think, yeah, and I think that's also.
I heard more transparent as possible, and you're, with that, maybe website, email blast.
And is it an asset to the district? Or is it an asset?
Yeah, I mean, some, you know, that's, everybody kind of suggests.
Reality is that like certain people
Yeah.
are liability, then it don't have.
But
So you're talking about
my
only
perspective is
I think that's
we do a lot of
Will it be immediately?
but again, if you're trying to save money,
Gotcha.
I'm not sure.
All
I
right.
honestly,
Good.
speaking, I've heard.
Spreading the word, being transparent. One thing that I heard is, stay focused on enhancing, education opportunity, dispel perception of financial. Stay focused on education, not on broader.
They'll be making decisions.
Matching benefits.
Wait, I think that community board will not say
I thought the main one still had.
Right, because what would change
One out of five
is
students
three
more
different
access to
right?
teachers.
Your school board would bring it back, and they would have four districts, they would have a K district, which is what this is.
Oh, yeah.
They'd have a full choice district.
All right.
And then the designated.
All right, guys.
So.
This last part's gonna be quick too.
Would still govern fees for now.
So, here's what we're gonna do now.
Working it over.
The Venn diagram here. So, we have Dorset, Sunderland, and Mountain Town is red. You guys are gonna get together, all right? And hopefully, you've seen Venn diagrams before, right? So, this very center portion, what do you all have, anything that you all had in common? here. You can post on Post-it note, or you can write it right on there, right? If we overlapping portions or commonalities, here, you know, if I put something right here, just Sunderland, that's just unique, that's a concern or a theme that's just unique to Sunderland, okay? Make sense? All right, so Sunderland, okay.
How will we know, like, how would I know if we're gonna surface them all first or what?
You're gonna get together, so we'll have Dorset, what, you guys, Dorset over here, Dorset, Sunderland, Mountain Towns, Red, you guys over here, and try to, the themes and the questions, you're gonna throw them on there, and over here we'll have Manchester, Danby, and Mount Tabor. Okay, try to identify the differences, and.
Are we moving or you're moving?
I'll come down here.
What's down here?
All right, about 8 minutes here.
Yeah, we're going over there.
Thanks. Some perks for this. Save my seat. Where are you going, Dick, on vacation?
I'm writing it
My
down.
son.
Well, I'll tell you what, why don't you take these, and I'll just,
So as a result, we have to
Okay.
choosing
And we'll make new ones, this
Oh,
one's
okay.
yours specific.
where the
yeah, that's
grandparents,
specific.
as he trains for a project.
Okay.
You know,
You're staying together, John.
So where are you gonna meet him in here?
well, we started in
Oh,
Geneva, end up
yeah.
in Provence, go to Amsterdam.
Oh, I'm sorry, yeah, I didn't
I'm
consider
not
that.
gonna, I don't wanna jump the gun.
Oh, that's why I had to
It's
initially write
already
individually,
written.
yeah.
Oh, right.
I don't know if we're gonna have a lot of.
You got all these, okay.
Here, this
You
is my
don't
notes
exist
from
anymore.
Elizabeth, who's not here.
I'm the first one
In
to go.
mine, and so I combined them together.
So,
Richard was traveling, and he just got
Right.
You guys
back.
wanna start?
Um,
Anything that, themes that came up for you guys?
You know, I heard a lot of,
Yes.
students have more
One
options,
is worried about
potentially.
the school being
These are
closed.
benefits.
All right, is that a concern for Mount Tabor too?
Yeah.
All right.
So is it a theme that equity,
Oh, no, right
okay.
here. School closing,
Yeah.
further closing?
Yeah,
Broad
that's
Did we
theme.
all think about that?
I think so.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we didn't say
He's right,
so,
that's right, yeah.
Yeah.
but people told, yeah, we all.
Okay.
Yeah, we're
One
yeah.
theme that came up
A lot of
for
people.
me, not so much Ed,
We're
but was
doing, yeah.
Well, let's write it so we can.
possibility of
so
a
that
regional
we
middle
can-
school.
Here's what I would
All right.
suggest to make it really easy. So one town run off their themes,
Well, they didn't
and
know
we're
it.
Dorset or
No.
whoever,
Yeah.
and then
It's our
if we
All
have.
right, do you think that represents a, is that an
Just-
agreement of thought?
Here it goes right
Okay,
there.
that's a good idea. Here, I'll give you.
How about Mount Tabor?
Right, so what was
That
that?
people
That
talk
was
about
equity.
that.
Melanie, why don't you
Because
go
that
down?
one
Here,
had
I'll
never
start
entered my
here.
mind at all, or had anybody
Taxes, where they
presented.
going up?
Okay.
Well,
That's gonna be-
correlated with
we
school
can just
closing.
stick
Yeah.
with
It's gonna be regional.
We don't have-
No,
we don't have-
because
We're gonna run out of
the
space.
average
We're gonna run out of
Well, we can
space
set 'em on
regardless.
top.
We're gonna run out of top.
Okay.
Put one word.
Equity
Put one word in
of
there.
Right
educational
there.
resources.
All right.
This is
all right,
transportation.
what else
We're
we
gonna
got?
take technologies every else. We're gonna get the same
Yeah.
School
transportation.
choice.
And that's a broader theme that came up in a lot of other
So that,
Right.
the
issues
school
as
choice
well.
come
And
through
that's what-
expanding school
yeah.
choice?
It is, and I think it came up in different manners, but
Okay,
essentially,
all right.
So ours
was,
is-
you know, like.
Yeah.
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 So
Okay.
transportation.
Yeah, I come
Well,
Mount
no,
Tabor,
but
which
just
is
equity.
Well, that's equity,
Equity
really.
of
Concerned
the.
about that.
Oh, we're not.
You guys get
educational
impact
resources.
statement?
Right now, we are,
Yeah,
But
but
you
it's,
can
Right
just
now,
throw
we
all
are
those, and then we can just put ours way out.
voting each year.
We might have a lot of
Paying
commonality.
tuition to a
Okay,
private
let's see.
school.
I have a couple that are specific, school choice.
Yeah, I think everybody.
We had, yeah, about high school choice.
man, you had people ask about that about high school.
Yeah, really?
Said what's gonna happen with school
That's what I
choice.
thought
Okay.
too, yeah.
So,
All right.
School choice.
For
And again,
high school, it's as much a
I
concern
think
for
we
Danny.
pretty much predicted all these things.
I think I'd like to put percent on the school choice middle school.
Yeah.
Yes, because that was a different, yeah, because ours is more towards high school,
Right.
what's gonna
And
happen.
Danby,
Yeah.
We do too.
and what do you pay, state average, or do you pay Martinburg tuition?
That's interesting.
Seventh, eighth grade is state average, 9 through 12 is.
I would-
Okay.
Because that's been on our.
There's a different
Yes,
That's
yeah,
what
but-
everyone has
I
done.
mean, I would love to see
I never
that.
get the different.
middle school, we're paying
And that's been
a
mostly.
premium
That doesn't benefit.
price to children who want to
I'll
go.
leave you, I still have to write, I'll just leave.
Well, I don't think.
It's only middle
it's
school,
been-
there's no
We
difference.
had talked about that, but.
Apparently,
No,
not.
we
That's
got-
the point.
it's a
That's
discussion,
the
yeah.
thing that
How,
changes
Yeah.
one
one year to
person,
the next.
people
Or
in
could
our
change.
So how do we preserve our
How
small
about unaware of
town
Act
sense of
46?
community around
Yes,
us?
oh yes.
Yep.
We
I had something like
individual-
that.
Yeah, we,
Outside
the individual, how do we preserve the
Um,
individual identity of our
Yeah,
school?
in our towns. it's
Outside,
So maybe that's a
people
center-
outside your
Yeah.
district making
Yeah,
decisions.
preserving small towns.
It's
Yeah, just a couple words of.
Preserving,
Town sense of community.
Yeah, so we kind of, I heard that a little bit, just like, who will, how will MEMS be represent, how will, what was it?
I think we've set up on writing into the service.
Where does the focus on MEMS?
The decision has been made.
That's a question I had. So,
How will we be
yeah, I guess that's
represented
for
on
all
the
of us,
larger
yeah.
regional board?
I gotta think even the people around Manchester are
Yeah.
gonna be a little
Yeah, well,
concerned
yeah.
about having
That's lots of
Did you
local
have that?
representatives from outside towns on
That
their board.
was not anything that
Some
I
are, yeah.
specifically talked to Word about.
But the flip
But
side
I
of
know
that
that is
Local
control.
is that
It's
Yeah.
local
You know,
control. Yeah,
potentially
actually, I
have
think
more
that's
options.
probably identifies it
Yeah,
right there.
how do we have a voice?
The local control question, right?
I don't know,
It's
but
outcomes.
control,
That's what- that's what-
representation.
Yeah, right.
another
slash-
theme that
Right.
came up for me was that
Certainly.
An interesting one.
benefit
that
building,
I don't think it's specific to
building
any
scale
town.
to offer
I
more
thought it was
diverse
interesting.
programs, right?
There,
And so we
I'm
can,
not even sure I'll represent.
consolidate,
They said
right?
More
but
conflicts.
the person who was saying this
more
was thinking
people
about,
in the decision.
I think in their minds
Could
was
actually be
closing
a
schools, to
roadblock
do that,
moving
close
forward on
schools,
issues.
and then like having that regional high school,
Well,
right?
the way Dan explained it to me,
Yeah.
it's gonna be an
I don't think
incremental
that's-
process
Yeah.
where
Just,
they reduce the number of
you know,
grades, they start
Budgeting
shaving off.
priorities, how
maybe
we
in a,
set
Sixth
them.
grade,
in
they
an
shave off
individual
fifth
school, you
grade,
can make a decision for
and
good or bad, to
progressively
go
down,
forward.
that nobody's in a big
Much
rush to
bigger
get rid
context,
of
it's
kindergarten in
maybe a
local
slower
towns.
process.
Yeah.
It's funny because the lawmakers
The
are looking to do
conflicting interests.
The negative plus
down.
kindergartners
Cut
and
down on that
pre-kindergartners
So that
will
they're
probably
budgeted.
Maybe we should put that in
prevent
the
any
endorsement
more.
slide.
I don't know if that's,
Yeah.
I just, I don't know if that's unique
Yeah.
to
So
Dorsey,
maybe
I just thought it was a unique.
Do you think that's a common theme?
Okay.
For all of us,
We
though,
have
that
a, you know,
the-
somebody-
some people,
I
there's a
have
benefits of a
collaborative
benefits of a
program
bigger
that
school, or no?
The others don't have it.
A lot of
There are
mine,
people
Eliminate
seeing
there,
benefits,
yeah, I
So
have
how about
one
that,
fact
like
that says
the
if it's
allocation
open
of
up-
resources?
That's back to
Yeah,
equity,
well, that's,
yeah.
yeah,
That
back
kinda
to
goes back
equity
to here.
versus-
Yeah.
Where it says possible expanded
How,
opportunities.
this was a, one was, how do we unite
You have people who are much better informed than the people I talk to.
Well, I had quite a few that were like, I don't know.
Increased property value.
We're not just a bunch of districts.
Increased property values. So,
Well, and that's
Yeah.
interesting though, because. we
interesting.
have
So in
that
Mount Tabor that came up,
supervisory
you think that's fair?
Families are
You know,
concerned
I
about
just-
have a mechanism.
the
But-
educational
but-
opportunities for the kids.
I wonder, is
Yeah.
culture and.
They will sometimes
different
rule out of
from
town
Mount Tabor that it is
based
to
on what the school
Peru,
is.
I mean, we all kind of.
Yeah, so is that a benefit, you think that's a benefit, people want, yeah, that's increased property value?
Yeah.
Being involved.
Put that
So
here and,
Consolidation would increase.
or is anything on Danny that's represented
Maybe
too?
also.
Yeah, there's been some, I've heard people say that.
But I think board members have a feel that
So,
the BRSU.
Yeah.
so it's,
Right.
community
members
think,
don't.
some people
Yeah.
believe that.
Well, I think
Yeah,
this
I
kind of
agree.
gets back to the preserving town identity of school a little bit too, you know, so
Interesting.
I think
I
that
mean,
we
there are
And the
lots of
other
people
issue
who will pay a
is
premium to live in
people
Manchester because of the
misunderstanding
educational
Act
offer.
46 and
In
the
general,
current
yeah.
system. They don't know
That's
what
right,
it's
and
about.
that was the number one
The
thing.
education opportunities
I
in
got
the economy,
that and I got why is this
then
good for us?
there's more places to move to and
Why,
get the same
why we
education.
want to do it.
Yeah,
3 minutes,
question
enough
is,
time? How much
really
time do you guys
cost
want?
savings?
Um,
I think we
almost
probably
done.
are.
3 minutes?
Almost there.
Okay.
Here, I
We,
can
maybe we
post
said
these
that
and I
tax
know that.
rates.
This is inside information. We should start
Maybe we
finding
should
that
just say general
Taxes.
misunderstanding of the
You'd be
law.
hard pressed to do that, there's only about 800
I think
acres.
it's a good, just
So,
blanket.
you guys are worried taxes going up. I didn't
What,
hear
Start
that,
sticking to your own.
the sum.
Well, I know.
I know.
I know.
I have no
One person
concern.
told me,
I,
I asked, was the person who
even
grew up in the
non-parents,
Yeah.
it's a non-issue
And
in
he said,
Manchester.
Think so?
well,
Yeah.
lots of people, there's a lot of sins.
Well, in terms of
So it's not
consolidation, I
negative,
can't see
it's
that.
Yeah.
Can't see any
sinful.
doubt.
So, Bambi, Mount Tabor, you feel like there's fear of tax
I heard that a lot
spike?
when we
Oh,
first
yeah.
Yeah,
talked about, we had a broad meeting in the fall,
yeah.
in October, November, and I followed up with a lot of people. And I'm
So
hoping
you
we're
guys,
gonna
you
put back
guys
to
don't get
that work.
payment
I
in
felt
lieu of
like we
taxes
were
for national
Uh,
tax?
What they
defend
call
the law
PILT,
itself.
payment in lieu
Yeah.
of
And I just wanted to
taxes,
back up and
is
say,
such
wait a
an
minute,
inconsequential sum of
we're
money
trying to
that it really really doesn't help.
Here's this law,
Okay.
and take the next
It's,
step.
well,
We didn't
Sunderland
create
has
this.
more population and
It
there's
is
a
what it is.
$50
And I think we're still,
limit
I didn't hear a
per
lot of that
capita
in the three people I
on
talked
those
to
built
from
funds.
this
Yeah.
exercise.
Where Mount Tabor has only
Kind of flow
197
back
people.
is people's
We
understanding
get
of what this
1/3
is or
of
isn't.
the PILT payment that's
Or just an understanding
Well-
that voting, yeah.
Well,
You-
right,
you
and I
can
think it's the
only
understanding
identify 90
of,
of
we're
those
doing this
people or
because
something.
this is
190
described. If we
we
don't
found.
do it,
You
it's gonna
found.
be the
The state
alternative,
says we
which
got
is what we will
250
lose
something.
if we don't
And
do
you're-
it.
And so
And that's what I
that's,
keep
yeah,
going
and
back
I
to.
spoke to that
Yeah.
people last week, because I had seen up north where I.
All right,
I was
so anything
at
about
the board meeting,
strategies
I was at the
for
last school board meeting in
communicating?
North in
What you
the
guys-
Orleans County District, I have friends up
I
there, and they
took to
voted their
Facebook.
merger down.
Yeah.
But, the misconception that I got talking to the people, my friends and stuff there, is they thought that by
Oh, you
voting
mean
down
for
the
this
merger,
activity?
Oh,
they
yeah.
could
No, I
stop
mean,
it.
like, when you asked
They
the
thought that
people
we
going
defeated the
forward,
law.
how do we
It's
best?
like, no, now you just don't get a tax
Sorry, I
break, the
wasn't
state's gonna make you do it anyway.
And you
So
won't have
that's
any.
something that people, they think that once it goes to public
Oh, yeah.
vote, that
Be
they can vote
transparent
that,
as possible,
no, you can't
and
vote down
at
the
our
law, it's gonna
website,
happen.
email, the
And that's a
last,
misunderstanding that people
sign
have,
up.
they think,
That's
oh, we're
really
gonna say
Spread
no
the
to the
word,
merger, then we stop it, no,
Do
it's
you
like,
get
no.
that sense
The
that?
state's gonna come to make you do
It's
it
pretty-
anyway.
And I think we
And
need
you
to
don't
get
get a
that
tax
back out
Yeah.
on the
Yes.
leading edge as we
Yeah.
start getting
Yeah.
out
Yeah.
in the community, so we're
Well, I
not
think
on
It's
the.
only after you present.
And that will
You know what, there was
perhaps
a
keep us
motion
away from being attacked by the people that come in and be
I
like,
think a
listen,
website is.
we're just trying to enact the law, we can't
Yeah.
stop
It's
it
just
one way or the
another
other.
We're gonna-
expression of that local control,
get
you
there
know, that,
soon. I
I
think
think
Dan
that's
and I
what
were-
we need.
You saw the search results after Britain's vote,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
They within a half hour.
Concern of Finney and Richmond?
What is Brexit?
Now, wait until
Should assets
fewer
and liabilities
responsibilities. I don't imagine like you
was.
we gotta do
Yeah,
it.
Your doors are right.
Those are-
You gotta have
Yeah, that's
assets and
what
liabilities.
I heard the opposite, but-
No, in the context of
The person was saying,
Yeah, taxes.
school building
goes here.
I would know what happens in the school
Yeah,
building.
it's in the middle, I
That's
would.
enrichment programs.
Yeah, I put it in.
Are they gonna
Maybe we
send
could just
that
go
teacher
taxes
around
and
to the other
finances.
schools and to be even
And
less?
that would cover all.
No, but that is a really separate issue. For Sunderland, it's a big issue.
Yeah.
We have a, I
I
know,
don't put it in,
say-
also heard first communication,
Yeah.
focus on educational
Yeah,
outcomes,
they have a.
Right.
not,
Living
all of a
uniqueness.
sudden,
finances.
Yes, yes, all right, that makes more sense.
That's,
yeah.
that
should
Is
get
there anything else?
education
I think we
outcomes
got outsiders making
before-
decisions of
should
Yeah.
come before,
local
not
control representation and preserving identity.
focus
Control
on
number
education
one.
outcomes before
And then-
finances.
I think we're good.
Do you feel like
I
that's?
mean, we have a lot of
this is
things
just
that I
one
would
person,
just fit into equity,
Well, I've had, I
educational
had the
resources
two
for,
that I got responses from, kind of echo the
Right.
same
you
thing.
know, look at
because
one here, someone said, you know,
what's
we'll
gonna
have a
be
bigger,
the- I'm more
let's
focused
say we
on
have a
the
position
benefit
for a
kids
teacher,
are
you know, we'll have
versus-
a bigger draw, because we have a, well, a bigger applicant pool.
I would have
We
said
have a
that
bigger
one down
home
in Mount
within
Tabor,
one
not
district versus
Right.
for Dorset, you know,
So
one
it's
third
three
grade
things.
teacher.
Year after
Well, you know
year
what I
after
meant to say
year,
was-
goes down the school budget.
What's gonna keep Manchester
The
taking our
populace
teachers
is
to the top 20 if they had
anti-education.
no
Mount
opinion?
Tabor
And how do
votes
we-
absolutely the
Yeah, well,
opposite
listen,
Yeah,
direction.
and that's
Yeah.
what kind of happens, but there was kind of,
There's
We,
a little bit
But
of
it's
that
all
sense.
more
wrong.
often than
Happy
not, the
family.
school
And now you're
budget,
one
the union
district.
actually passes
Yeah.
it.
I think that local control thing, it is so
Yeah.
big.
Higher-
It's just a suggestion, I keep thinking about, people always say local
That
control.
Let's hear from
And I
that.
think it means a lot,
We
different
very
things to a
often
lot
have
of
70% of our
unpacking that.
Yeah.
That local control is gonna be kind of.
What does that mean to you? What does that mean to you?
Right.
Yeah,
Figure it
that's-
out, because I haven't.
All right, guys, can we hear from you quickly about what are the big commonalities and the big differences? Just give us the headlines of what your conversation is about.
Well, I don't think we have too many differences. I mean, a couple with Sunderland with assets and liability, school closing, does that mean designation? Mountain Towns Regional Middle School is one of the things that they might have interest in discussing. But the main there's more commonalities between the three towns than there are differences. And that would be taxes, equity of educational resources, school choice, whether that will continue at least at the high school level, preserving town identity of the school, having that uniqueness that is for those particular schools, local control and representation, what's that representation going to look like at school boards in the future, and general misunderstanding of the law is another thing.
Sounds like ours, right? Yeah, we had a lot of the same commonalities that you had. And, you know, one thing that I heard anyway, and these guys agreed was a common theme in theirs, when we communicate that we focus on education outcomes before finances. You know, that's there's a feeling that in our communities that's valued more than the financial piece, and that in our communication, that comes first. And regional middle school, that was Mount Tabor and Manchester put that here, that, something that people in both those communities, some people would like to see, that possibility, because it came up that it would increasing the scale. This came up for me a lot. If you increase the scale, then you increase diversity of programming. And so we also had school closing, important for Danby and Mount Tabor, losing school choice, increased property value for Danby and Mount Tabor too. So these guys had a lot of commonality. The fear of a tax spike, which is interesting. I heard some of the opposite. How about, did you guys hear? And much talk about taxes?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, everybody
You guys,
asked, what's it gonna cost?
Yeah.
And we know in our area that it didn't save
Yeah,
money. It doesn't. It maybe in the long run it will, but in the short run.
yeah.
I
You
heard-
guys invested a lot too.
I heard
Yeah,
opposite too. I heard short-term savings, long run.
Oh, yeah.
So,
Well,
I mean, it's a question, it's a
yeah.
theme.
Yeah.
What's gonna happen? What does it look like?
But when we did it, we thought, the hoopla was, oh, this will save you a lot of money, and we sold it that way. Because
Yeah,
that's what we believed,
yeah.
but it didn't.
Frequently asked
Yeah,
questions.
sounds
What were
like-
the biggest questions that came up?
I think that's.
Anything
We
that,
really just talked about
other than the
themes,
obvious?
I think.
Yeah.
I don't think we got to the questions part.
There's
Yeah.
broad misunderstanding and ignorance.
Okay. Yeah, that we had,
Yeah.
unaware of Act 46, that was and it's center for all of us. Yeah.
The issue that we were talking about is the issue of local control, which you were talking about, means a lot of different things. And we will need as a committee to unpackage a lot of that, what that really means.
One thing that I haven't seen anywhere here is the change in the ratio of students. Courier has 74% poverty rate of their students. 42% special ed. What will that do to Manchester? I've got to think that the people of Manchester are going to see it as a terrible thing. And the people of Danby, Mount Tabor might see it as a good thing.
Yeah, it's kind of, I'm sure that's an elephant in the room for some people.
It's going to be a dramatic change. It'll be a factor.
It's interesting though, some stuff like that, like with special ed, we're all doing it together and pushing it out based on the number of kids, so we're essentially sharing those costs now.
Yeah.
I wasn't talking about just cost.
It's-
I'm talking about the ratio in a classroom.
Oh, okay, yep.
Yeah.
Where you've got four
Making it
out
tougher.
of 10 children are very needy.
That was one, that I did have one person give me one comment that was to that, is are we gonna have out of towners in our school, essentially,
I believe in the case of Manchester, yes.
Yeah, so I mean, that was definitely one person that mentioned that to me.
What, can I understand, I'm not sure I understand
It's the
what
assumption
you
of
mean.
school.
Yeah, are you assuming that the school's gonna close, is that what you're talking
Yeah,
about?
I think that's
So,
inevitable.
when you're talking about the courier kids coming into Manchester,
Yeah,
that,
and it
okay,
won't
that's
be-
what that discussion is.
It
Okay.
won't be with the stroke of a pen and it happening the first year by any means, no.
Right.
I'm not trying to.
I think by
imply
law it's preserved for 4 years.
4 years.
that. Okay,
But,
But yeah.
And how do
year
people in
number
town
5.
feel about that?
I think there's a lot of diversity in the way people feel about it. I think there are people who think it's inevitable progress and it's a good thing. And the people of Mount Tabor and Danby, because you can't really talk about one town without talking about the other, they share a school. Will ultimately benefit from it. Others think, gee, we've got our own school, we like it, we like local control. They're seeing it as a bad thing. So even though there are things on both sides of the scale, there are various people with various leanings, depending on their priorities. I think a really big thing for both towns is the concern that we're going to lose choice in middle school and high school. We're going to have a designated school.
So, but that
Just for
can't
middle
happen.
school. Just for
Why
middle
can't it?
school. middle school.
Did you,
We're not
only
gonna
for middle
do-
school, because you can't, being part of, if we all joined together, right, and only
Are
had
we
9
not
through 12
abolishing
joiners.
town school boards?
No, but
Yeah,
we
but
would
same as
still,
open
we would
option.
basically, we would remain high school choice no matter what. I think that losing middle
Okay.
school choice.
So Mount Tabor is
a
voting
serious
to pay
concern.
more than,
That's not Tabor's choice
right,
And
but
that will
we'll
not.
no longer have that choice, will we?
Correct. We'll have a vote on
Yeah,
that
so
choice.
is Mountain Town's red.
Well, that's,
No, they set the
It will
tuition
all-
rates for the,
all the towns who are part of the new district, we have the same high school choice options. And right now, we have differences in which schools and what do we
Right.
pay and stuff like that.
And that was gonna
So
have
it
to
would, it would be the same thing for all of the districts that take part, so that would be a change.
with that ballot question for Burton's tuition rate,
Mhm.
the electorate would be the new district.
Right.
I think virtually every town is tuitioning Burton and paying for their
Yes.
tuition. Mount Tabor and I believe Danby to some extent are doing the same thing for Long
Right.
So does-
There is some
And
difference.
Mountain Towns
We do
does
too.
Long Trail as well.
Or wherever you go.
But Manchester
And we only pay the Burton rate. to
doesn't,
Long Trail.
Dorset does,
We don't pay all
Long
of it.
Trail as well.
We don't pay all of it either, right? We pay the Burton.
Yeah.
All right,
Right,
so,
it's
So,
a mishmash.
has this come up though, for you guys, is your concern about designation when your school closes? If your school closes, then your concern is that you would be designated and lose choice for that level.
or middle school.
Whereas if you were now not operating, you would have full choice. But if you close, those K-6ers are gonna be designated to somewhere without that choice
Yeah,
of where they
well,
get
now,
designated.
now K-6 is designated to Courier, so
Right,
I don't see that as such a tragedy that they would be
Designated to
designated to Manchester. I mean,
okay,
there may be people who object and others who see vast benefit.
right.
Um,
Because I know that's an issue for us.
it's-
You
it's-
know,
And then
if we
there's- that
close,
ties
we
in with
want that
regional
choice of
municipal
Arlington
idea, too,
versus
which-
Manchester.
Certainly
Hey,
middle
John.
school
Yes.
is a change.
Just one other thing that wasn't in tonight's exercise, but was part of the homework, was talking about outreach, and I just would like to ask, maybe in the next meeting, as we kind of talk about how we're gonna get our work done, we include that in talking about community outreach.
yes, I meant to put that in the, well, it was part of the theme, so I wasn't explicit with that.
Okay.
But yes, that
Yeah, I would like to just
absolutely
maybe
need
put that
to,
on
that's a
the
big one.
agenda for
And
the next.
related to that too, same thing, could we consider maybe rotating the meetings from school to school, just to sort of begin to build up community and let people from the far-flung towns attend these meetings and have a voice and, you know,
Okay.
feel like they're part of this process?
Fair
because,
enough.
I feel like meeting in Manchester, we've talked about this a lot,
Yeah.
meeting in Manchester all the time, this seems like,
It makes it feel,
Manchester School District.
yeah,
you know?
that's right.
That's-
And there's some sense of resentment.
So where do we meet now?
We get a lot of farm kids that'll
In
go.
Mount Tabor.
Well, at the school.
There we go.
That's a
I'm
school.
first off.
Yeah, it could, that's a school.
But that's not in.
All right, so, all right,
But,
I'll,
so however we work
Yes.
that out, just as
Like
a way.
our school board meetings in the fall, when
Yeah.
we do the carousel,
Yeah.
it's gonna be
Yeah,
Floodbrook, Manchester, Dorset, Sutherland.
it's just a gesture to the public that
An important
we're all in this together, you know, and,
And if they wanna show up to
Yeah,
a
and
meeting, they
that's-
can show up to
yeah.
one place in their town.
all
I
right,
think that's civility.
On the list.
good, so I want to get you guys, I want to get going for a while here. For quick feedback, I know we've been talking forever, but, and Richard will do this in the future, but for this meeting, just how we operated, you know, what worked, what didn't work. Just quickly, any thoughts you guys have, how did we do tonight? What worked, what didn't work, what we do differently?
I think I need to let it fester a little bit.
Yeah.
You know,
Sounds
you
sounds
think about it,
positive.
It's not a positive.
I'm sort of septic about
I like the things we talked about, but in my mind, I still
about
cannot
marinade?
picture.
Marinade's a better word, there you go.
Let's,
I like the
look it
discussion,
up.
I still in my
In Mount
mind
Tabor,
cannot
we're doing a
picture
lot of
what
that
our
right
work
now.
is going to look like.
yeah.
And I need to be able to see that.
The working
about a
plan.
month and a half from
Yeah.
now, Lake Champlain is.
And you must have
This is
people
where I
asking you also.
Yeah, can we circulate that list of the 13 questions?
What's your
It's in your-
it's in your Act 76.
It's kind of hidden.
Do you
Yeah.
collect your news?
Yes.
Now, how will I do this for minutes?
Oh,
These things?
Where's your vice collecting this? It's recorded.
He would deny it, and I will too.
I'll talk about you. Yeah, we'll talk about that. All right, any other thoughts about what worked, what didn't work during the meeting? Feedback from me.
Roll it in yours, I'm
This is a
sorry.
good
I put
idea.
all the stuff.
This was good?
I put
Did
all
you
the
guys?
stuff away
Yeah, and I
too
think
for
it's
you.
especially
thank
good
you.
to talk to our communities, it's a good thing to get started.
I got clean up.
I know Richard's.
All right, guys, so we have people talking.
Sorry.
Yeah.
I think that this was a much more productive meeting than the previous two, although they were essential. And I think if we go forward, we'll have a better understanding of a more defined picture of what we're trying to accomplish at that meeting. We're still being, from my perspective, very amorphous and general.
Now, I'm gonna kind of talk about what you said earlier, Dick, about I think we really need to move quickly, and I would almost put it like front and center on the next agenda, is getting some concrete ideas of tackling these 13 things, whether it be people actually want to maybe even take a look between now and the next meeting, take a look and see what interests you have, if you want to serve on particular sections of that. I really think in the next meeting, we have to come up with a plan of how we're
That's
gonna.
the agenda for next meeting.
That
It's
is
a
it,
working plan.
it has to be. I mean,
You might also look at the sample ones that we circulate before, because that gives you an idea what work is behind each of those questions.
Can we save time by utilizing a few of the districts that have already
Yeah,
formed?
yeah, that's what I mean. To
Yeah,
look
they're
at-
on the BRSU website too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you look at them
You
and
know,
get a sense of what's.
sort of pick and choose from the various ones, the things we like and don't like, and it might save a little time.
That's all
So
we
it
do.
sounds like, and this is what I was thinking anyway, but working plan, the agenda for the next item,
Yeah.
next meeting. Right? That's our main goal, is to walk out of the meeting with agreed upon working plan.
Great.
Okay?
that would be.
All right, any other final feedback for how we operated tonight? What was effective, what wasn't?
Well, getting in was a real problem.
And what happened to the snacks? I thought we were getting
Oh,
snacks.
yeah, over here.
I know.
Said you were getting cake.
Quick.
Yeah, wait a second. Starving here. Was there, did we say there were snacks?
Someone said there was
Yeah, right here.
Oh, there's no kid snacks. All right.
Is there a motion?
Yeah, so move to adjourn here? All right. All right. All those in favor of adjourning? All right. All those opposed? Stay here. All right, thank you.